why, he announced the 1969 season alongside Bob Murphy and Lindsey Nelson, accompanied by his wife Ann, Ralph Kiner. Ladies and gentlemen, 4 of the 1969 Mets were unable to attend tonight's celebration, so we honor them in absentia, along with their teammates who are here. Veteran catcher J.C. Martin, whose bunt in Game 4 of the World Series scored Rod Gasper with a winning run. Outfielder and first baseman Art Shamsky, who batted 300 in 1969 with 14 home runs and 47 runs batted in, and led the Mets with a .538 batting average in the National League Championship Series. Left-handed pitcher Jack DeLauro, who posted a 2.40 earned run average in 23 games that season. And we remember as well the late Rube Walker, who coached the Mets pitching staff for 14 seasons and helped guide so many of those talented young arms of the 1969 team to greatness. Gil Hodges' coaching staff established the foundation for this championship team. An all-star infielder who coached 8 seasons for the Mets at third base. Lindsey Nelson simply referred to him as the sign man at third. Brooklyn native number 53, Eddie Yost. Another Brooklyn native, he began his catching career with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and he retired as a Met after the club's inaugural season of 1962. He then became a Mets coach for 14 years. Number 52, Joe Pignatano. A former Mets player, he was the first base coach for the 1969 champs, and he went on to manage the club to a World Series berth in 1973. A 3-time Most Valuable Player, 15-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, and living legend, number 8, Yogi Berra. Let's welcome the 1969 World Champion New York Mets players to Citi Field. He collected a hit in his Major League debut that June and won the second half of a July 20th doubleheader against the Montreal Expos with a 2-out 10th inning bunt. A dependable infielder, number 1, Bobby File. This original Mets 10-year playing career concluded with a trade in June of 1969. Now a 41-year member of the organization, having served as a coach, minor league instructor, and advisor, number 38, left-handed pitcher Al Jackson. This catcher crushed a 3-run home run on opening day of the 1969 season against the Montreal Expos. A 14-year Major League veteran, number 10, Duffy Dyer. shutouts and threw 23 consecutive scoreless innings from August the 16th to August the 26th of 1969. He would later become part of the 1973 National League pennant winners. Number 43, Jim McAndrew. This reliever led the 69 Mets with 13 saves, and he closed the team's first wins in both the National League Championship Series and the World Series. Number 42, Dr. Ron Taylor. Batted .455 in the World Series and was named Most Valuable Player by the baseball writers for dealing the Orioles 2 crushing blows, the deciding ninth-inning single of Game 2 and the game-tying home run in the clinching 5th game. From Bethpage, Long Island, and Farmingdale High School, number 6, infielder Al Weiss. He played in 118 games during his rookie season of 1969 and led the club with 12 outfield assists. He also scored the winning run in Game 4 of the World Series. Number 17, outfielder Rod Gasper. He won 13 games as a rookie, including the complete game shutout on September the 24th that clinched the team's first division title. He was also the winning pitcher in Game 3 of the World Series and had a double in that game off of Jim Palmer. Number 39, Gary Gentry. A rookie in 1969, he contributed 7 game-winning runs batted in the regular season. And then he hit .385 in the National League Championship Series with a 2-run homer in the series-clinching 3rd game, which put the Mets in front to stay. Number 11, also part of the 73 champs, infielder Wayne Garrett. On September the 15th, his 2 home runs lifted the Mets over the Cardinals, despite Steve Carlton's record-tying 19 strikeouts in 9 innings. But he is best remembered for one of the most dramatic outfield catches in World Series history, a game-saving grab in the 9th inning of Game 4. He also delivered the game-winning hit of the decisive 5th game to give the Mets their first World Championship. Number 4, outfielder Ron Swoboda. He homered in the Mets' division-clinching win and later scored the winning run in Game 2 of the World Series, the first World Series game the Mets ever won. The poet laureate of the 69 club, they called him the Glider. Third baseman, number 5, Ed Charles. Quite simply, one of the greatest defensive catchers of his generation. This all-star was behind the plate for every inning of the Mets' 1969 postseason. A Met for 11 years. Number 15, please welcome back Jerry Brody. His RBI single in the bottom of the 11th beat Bob Gibson and the Cardinals in mid-September. What a shortstop. Tough as they came. And a two-time All-Star, a Gold Glove winner known for his great defense. He played for the Mets from 1965 to 1977. He went on to coach and manage the Mets. Still one of the all-time Mets favorites. Number 3, infielder Buddy Harrelson. Original Met, signed out of James Monroe High School in the Bronx. He played from 1962 through the 1979 season. He's the club's career leader to this day in hits, doubles, total bases, games played. He had more hits than anyone in the history of Shea Stadium. He homered in Game 3 of the World Series. First baseman, number 7, Eddie Kranepool. A 1969 All-Star. He hit .340 that year, the second highest batting average in Mets single-season history. He also led the '69 team in hits, doubles, walks, and stolen bases before catching the final out of the World Series to cap that miracle season. Left fielder, number 21, Cleon Jones. He won 17 games that season while posting a 2.28 earned run average with 180 strikeouts and appeared in his second All-Star game in just his second season. He won 2 of the World Series games, including the complete game that clinched the Mets' first World Championship. The franchise leader for wins, starts, complete games, strikeouts, and shutouts by a left-handed pitcher, number 36, Jerry Koosman. He earned his first October win with 7 gutsy innings in Game 3 of the 1969 National League Championship Series, and he captured his first save with 2 1/3 scoreless frames in the pivotal 3rd game of the World Series. An 8-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, and product of the Mets farm system, who tonight is back in a Mets uniform for the first time in over 35 years. Baseball's all-time leader in strikeouts, no-hitters with 7, and seasons played. Welcome home, number 30, Nolan Ryan. In 273 innings pitched, he posted a 2.21 earned run average and 208 strikeouts, en route to a league-high 25 victories and the first of 3 Cy Young Awards. A 1969 All-Star and Sports Illustrated's Man of the Year. He's the Mets' all-time leader in wins, earned run average, strikeouts, and shutouts. He finished his Hall of Fame pitching career with 311 wins. The franchise, number 41, Tom Seaver. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1969 World Champion New York Mets.
I believe this is the best team effort of any ball club I've ever seen.
Is hit through the middle. It's going to go into center field. A base hit, and the Mets will win it. So for the first time in the history of the New York Mets, they have gone into first place.
Ground ball is short. This could be it. There's one. There's two. Again, this one, the Mets are the champions of the Eastern Division of the National League.
Chopped out to third. Garrett has the ball. A throw to first. And the Mets are the National League champions.
Racing hard is A.J. What a grab! From A.J. And it is a fly ball. It'll be tough to get to. And A.J. takes it down. They catch. And there's a drive to right center. Swoboda comes up with it. He squares to butt. Bunts the ball. A good one. It's taken now by Rickett. Throws to first. And it hit him in the back. Here comes the winning run. The ball is in play. The Mets win the ball game. That's a fly ball to deep left, and Buford breaks back now. It's going, and it is gone for a home run for Al Weiss.
The 2-1 pitch. There's a fly ball hit out to left. Waiting is Jones. The Mets are the world champions.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Seaver.
Thank you very much, baby. How I thank you very much. And all you fans, of course, another well-deserved thank you to all of you. People call us the Miracle Mets, but nothing was impossible when you played for Gil Hodges. Impossible maybe, improbable excuse maybe, but impossible never. With the first championship, we gave validity to a franchise. It's a thread that joins us as teammates to our children and our grandchildren, everybody on this ball club, and the fans forever. That perfect, improbable, glorious season when the 1969 Mets became world champions. You believed in us. We believed that we could make it happen. And the trophy and the memories are ours forever. And a trophy serves as a memento that we were both correct. We all cherish these memories each and every day, each and every one of us, forever. And on behalf of all of us standing out here in these white, glorious Met home uniforms, thank you all, New York.
Thank you, Tom. In 1969, the rock musical Hair earned Tony Award nominations for Best Musical and Best Director. In 2009, Hair won a Tony for Best Revival of a Musical. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your caps for the singing of our national anthem, to be performed tonight by Tony Award nominee Will Swenson from the Broadway musical revival of Hair.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, Will Swenson. We conclude our 40th anniversary celebration of the 1969 Mets World Championship with tonight's ceremonial first pitch, to be thrown by three of the greatest pitchers in the history of the game: Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, and Jerry Koosman. 1969 Mets catchers Jerry Grote and Duffy Dyer are joining Hall of Fame catcher Yogi Berra at home plate to receive the first pitch. Gentlemen, it's your pitch. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, Jerry Koosman, Jerry Grote, Duffy Dyer, Yogi Berra, and your 1969 World Champion New York Mets.
Well, they played in what is now a parking lot across the street, but 40 years on, the 1969 World Champion Mets have brought their flag across the parking lot to a new home, and to an enthusiastic welcome. They've been honored tonight. A wonderful job by Howie Rose with the introductions, and it was so great to see all of these guys in one place at the same time. to watch all of today's players so attentive and so interested in the club's history, and for everybody to be in such remarkable shape. This is a very, very special night.
Well, you know what's great for me is that we get to see a lot of these guys, but the guys that we don't get to see, the Dr. Ron Taylors, Ed Trainpool, great to see him tonight. And I thought the first pitch was just unbelievable to have 3 Hall of Famers there, Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver, and Yogi Berra, and also Jerry Grody there, Duffy Dyer, just an amazing, Jerry Kuzman, just an amazing time to watch these guys 40 years after the miracle.
Well, I remember '69 very clearly, and growing up on the West Coast, and you know the Mets were always the last place team, and you never thought much about them out on the West Coast. But I remember how it gripped the nation, and how my brother and I, our family, and we saw for the first time the people coming off the 7 train over the right field fence, and the excitement when they beat the Orioles, the mighty Orioles, with the 4 great pitchers. No one would have ever thought they had a chance to beat the Orioles, and they beat them handily. And I thought it was wonderful that Nolan Ryan was here, Garrett.
To me, that was the most special part of this entire evening, because Nolan, you know, for a Met fan, the legacy of Nolan Ryan has always been what might have been. You know, Nolan was talking about it today because there's always been the question of whether he would have been as successful, would have been a Hall of Famer had he stayed in New York. And he said what everybody's overlooked is the fact that in those days he had military reserve duty that took portions out of every season. In that season in 1969, he missed a whole month in May and June. He missed 3 weeks later in the season. He only made 12 starts for that team. So I think for a Met fan to see Nolan come home, wear the Met uniform, which he wore so proudly. He was such a big part of the postseason that year in the clinching game against the Braves and in Game 3 against the Orioles. And to see him back in the ballpark for the first time in the Mets uniform since he left at the end of the 1971 season, this was extra special.
Well, look at it. These are the everyday players today. Today's player can't wait to touch his hand, shake his hand. He is as relevant today as he was in 1969, and it's just great to see him back here in Queens.
Not bad. He's talking to my brother. And of course, Nolan is still a very big part of the game as the president of the Texas Rangers, and we'll talk more about that as the evening goes along and his role in trying to reshape what pitching means in baseball today. But to have everybody from, you know, Bobby File to Tom Seaver on hand. And I do want to make one note of a small omission. I don't know why, but Ken Boswell was not mentioned tonight. Ken was the starting and primary second baseman for the Mets in 1969, and through some oversight was not mentioned during the pregame ceremony. So I just want to make sure that everybody remembers Ken Boswell, number 12, and his role in the Mets championship in '69. Now it's time for pictures, and in just a few minutes it'll be time for baseball tonight. A tremendous night here at Citi Field. Celebration honoring the Miracle Mets of 1969. The champions of every team, of every athlete, of whom it said it couldn't be done. This team proved it could be. Not impossible, just improbable, as Tom said. What memories. in the field as they get set to play the Phillies in Game 2 of their 4-game series. And I mentioned this during the last segment, guys, the fact that the Met players sat in the dugout and watched that ceremony tonight. And you wonder what kind of inspiration guys draw from watching guys who played before they were born.
Well, I find it kind of interesting. I think on the Mets, probably Sheffield's the only guy that was born in '69 or earlier for the Mets. Jimmy Moore, of course, for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think that these things can be very inspiring for these players, even though they weren't here when those teams came to be. But I think to look at all those great players, to see Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver, I think it's a pretty special day.
Well, that's what everybody wants, is you want as many World Series rings as you can possibly have. Yeah. And, you know, if you were a Yankee, Yogi Berra, well, you were a very lucky man. You know, Yogi earned it. But those are the things you aspire to. And I remember as a Cardinal coming up, when they have all those teams come back, and the Cardinals had, the most National League championships. And when I was playing back in the 70s, they had the 42 Cardinals there, the teams in the 40s. Johnny Mize was there. And I sat, and, boy, I wish. And we didn't have the scoreboard then where you can have the videotape and watch the action. You can only use your imagination. And it was inspiring. Boy, I sure would like to get to a World Series and be a World Series champion.
And, you know, for these players watching, every championship team has its legacy, but the '69 Mets are something different. I think every kid growing up hears about the '69 Mets, about this team that had never finished higher than 9th, that had never had a winning record, that somehow, some way was able to be more than the sum of its parts and win a World Series championship. Here's your Smirnoff starting lineup for the Phillies tonight. After the Mets beat them last night to shrink Phillies' lead to 5.5 games in the National League East. Same lineup as last night, except for Pedro Feliz, who gets the start at third base. He actually came on in yesterday's game after Greg Dobbs strained his calf. Chase Utley, 5 home runs against the Mets this year. And Tim Redding gets his first start since July 2nd, taking the spot of Livan Hernandez.
Well, this is a year for Tim that has been such a really mostly down, but here gets a chance to make a few starts down the stretch. He pitches best against these Phillies. 12 starts career. He's never given up more than 3 earned runs.
And he pitches inside to Jimmy Rollins, and we're underway at Citi Field. Rollins 2 for 5 last night, including a double. He's been hitting well for the better part of 2 months now, and has his average up to 245 after a dreadful start. And Redding falls behind him 2-0.
Well, he started turning it on, Gary, the last series here at Citi Field. He had a terrific series and then went back into Philadelphia and just backed it up. That's where he caught fire. Well, he was right around the interstate there, but very close to it.
Rollins pops one up. Playable for Tatis. Right near the Mets 69 logo. First down of the night.
And we'll take a look at the Mets defense, brought to you by Lexus. And you can see Luis Castillo, his 101st start this season at second base. Valdez gets the start tonight at shortstop. And, of course, Sheffield back in the lineup.
Now Shane Victorino is having a marvelous year, 7th in the National League in batting, hitting at .314. And he takes a strike from Redding. Victorino 1 for 4 last night, top 10 in the league in doubles and triples and runs scored, 3rd in the league in hits with 147 hits. And the curveball hit down the right field line, back toward the corner. It's hooking, and it is just foul by a matter of inches.
Oh boy.
No argument. Davey Lopes was right there, first base coach. He saw it all the way, as did Victorino, but about 3, 4, 5 feet foul.
First fan next to the foul pole. Didn't want to drop his eats.
You know, to put Victorino's season in perspective, he's the 2nd place hitter for the Phillies. He has 50 extra base hits. That's more than a net.
That ball hurts, doesn't it? You need a glove.
To center field, playable for Pagan. And Redding has retired the first 2. One of Tim Redding's best starts of the season came against the Phillies. That was on June 11th here at Citi Field. He went 7 innings, allowed 3 runs, 6 hits. Turned out to be a no decision game for him, a game the Phillies won, but As Ronnie said, some of Reading's best games have come against this team, but not necessarily against the guy coming to the plate. Chase Utley, 9 for 21 against Reading with a couple of home runs.
Well, Utley gets a lot of guys. He is, look at that on-base percentage. That is second in the National League. He's, what, 21 shy of another 100 RBI season. He's going to hit 30 home runs. He is quite a player. I remember when he came up that, you know, you could just see he was a star in the making.
He also played the game the correct way, and I think that's what we are more impressed with.
Great eye at the plate. Takes a strike, 1-1.
I remember when he came up. It's fun when they're up here in the booth watching all these players, when they watch their progression year to year. And Utley came up, he did not hit left-handers well at all. Well, now he has made the adjustments, and he hits well against lefties and righties.
Well, he grew up in Southern California, and his mentor really teaching him how to hit was Jeff Burroughs, American League MVP in the 70s. And it's very interesting because Burroughs had a very long swing, a very powerful swing. Utley just the opposite.
Right.
Very short stroke. Doesn't get fooled very often.
Jeff Burroughs was an all-or-nothing hitter. Struck out a lot and hit home runs.
1-2 curveball, and Reading walking off. He thought he had strike 3, but the home plate umpire Tim Timmons said no.
Not missed. When it's a bender like that, it kind of curves around the plate. Nice try.
So Reading had 1 foot in the dugout. Guy's going to get back on the mound. 2-2. Fastball, that misses, and it's 3-2. 92 from Reading. It's about the hardest we've seen him throw this year.
Well, the Philadelphia Philly broadcast team over there, they call him Cy Reading, the way he pitches against the Phillies.
Settle on the changeup. And it's low ball 4. So after thinking he had Utley struck out, Reading winds up walking him, and now he's got to face Ryan Howard with a man on.
It's a good pitch right there, the changeup 3-2. But you know, Utley he's so quiet at the plate, such a good eye. You know, a lot of hitters swing at that pitch.
Well, Howard is one of the hitters that Reading has completely dominated in his starts against the Phillies. Howard is just 3 for 24 against Reading without a home run. Not too many right-handers who have those kinds of numbers against Howard, who is just 1 RBI shy of his 4th straight 30 home run, 100 RBI season. Let's put the triangle defense on against him. Utley stole a base last night, and the curveball misses to Howard, ball 1.
You know what the pitcher thinks when he has those kind of numbers against a hitter? Boy, I'm dominating this guy. You know what the hitter thinks? There's some damage to come.
Or the hitter says, I better go in my emergency stance here. I can't figure this guy out.
Well, Keith, did you ever have a guy who was not a particularly top-line pitcher have that kind of success against you?
Yeah, so a lot of marginal pitchers that got me out that I could not figure. Well, I couldn't say that I couldn't figure out. I mean, I can't say Dan Schatzeder was a mediocre pitcher. He was a pretty good pitcher before he hurt his arm. But there's a lot of guys that I could not figure out. The guys with herky-jerky motions I didn't like.
And sometimes when you hit it hard, it was right at somebody.
2-1 to Howard.
Well, you know, it's all about getting a rhythm when you swing. And I always liked the guys that had the beautiful soft motions, and like Carlton. And then the guys with the herky-jerky motions, Larry McWilliams, Don Suttons, you know, where they're all arms and legs and elbows. You know, you got to wait that split second longer and see that ball that split second longer out of the pitcher's hand before you make a move, as opposed to with Nolan Ryan, the beautiful motion of Ryan. You can kind of rock. But that's just me. I mean, might be different with someone else.
Howard hit 3 balls hard last night, had a couple of hits, then struck out his last 2 at-bats. 2-2 from Reading, up and away, and a full count to Howard. So Utley will get the automatic start with Jason Worth on deck. 3-2. Hit to center field, and Pagan is there waiting for it. And so Redding gets Howard again, and the Mets come up in the bottom of the first with no score. That's it. Here's your Geico starting lineup for the Mets tonight. Same unit as last night, except for the shortstop. Wilson Valdez gets the call over Anderson Hernandez. Jeff Francoeur, 3 hits, including a rip of a home run last night. And the Mets going up tonight against the rookie left-hander Jay Happ, who's probably the front runner for National League Rookie of the Year honors. Angel Pagan takes ball 1.
Well, he's been outstanding. 16 starts, 11 of those 2 earned runs or less. So he has been outstandingly consistent this season. Look at those hits to innings pitched.
At 2.66 ERA right now, 5th in the National League. Pagan hits one well to right center field, chasing Worth back. Plenty of room for him, and that's the first out.
Well, how about that? We got the Philly 4 defense for you. And we got Jim Rollins, 3 errors, fewest among NL shortstops. That's pretty outstanding, 3 errors. You'd like to have that guy behind you, Ronnie.
Yes. He is a good shortstop.
Yes, he is. They say that when he was slumping earlier in the year, hitting almost on the interstate, his defense was outstanding. He does not take his bat out into the field with him.
He has not made an error in 67 straight games, by the way.
Meanwhile, the raging hot Luis Castillo at the plate. 4 straight multiple hit games. Second time this year he's had 4 straight games with 2 hits or more. His average up to .314 on the year, 6th in the National League.
I like this Happ. He's right over the top. Likes to pitch inside. Not afraid to throw the fastball.
Rollins picks it up on the short hop and 2 away. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Bigelow Tea, the green tea of choice for New York sports legend Joe Torre. By Honda. By Burger King. And by Pella Windows. Get 2 free Mets tickets when you schedule a free in-home appointment. Call 866-64-PELLA today. Gary Sheffield 1 for 4 last night, hitting a .285 for the year. And the Phillies overshift their infield as they did last night against Sheffield. One of the few right-hand hitters you'll see a team do that against.
Well, Sheff has been pulling, particularly on the lefties.
course, he had a check swing hit on the right side last night that just trickled onto the outfield grass.
Hey, take him. Love it with the bases loaded.
He hits it in the air deep down the left field line, right back toward the corner. Ibanez is back there, and it's a foul ball. Just barely missed.
How about that?
Well, in the top of the inning, it was Victorino barely missing a home run down the right field line. And now Sheffield almost tucked that ball into the left field corner, and he just missed.
Right off the elm, just about where that 69 Met championship logo is. Well, you don't want to go up and in to Chef.
Right over the 335 and in front of that 69 logo. Two popped up, and the second baseman Utley coming over to the proper side of the infield to make the grab. 1-2-3 inning for Happ. Some images from the 1969 World Champion Mets.
Kind of makes you realize your mortality. You know, we're all, as each year passes, we're getting older.
And of course, some very important members of that 69 team are no longer with us, including Tug McGraw, Don Clendenin, Don Cardwell, Cal Kuntz. Driven to right center field off the bat of Jason Worth, and Francora back to grab it. One away.
Well, it's a home run in Citizens Bank Park, but a big hang with them here.
And Worst a dent in the big scoreboard.
You know, the one thing I've noticed about Francora more and more is that, yes, he might not have the greatest speed. We know he's got a great arm. That's great jumps on the ball in right field.
Yes, he does.
He made that look easy. That had double written all over it.
Yep. How would you compare his defense to that of the guy he replaced?
Well, that's an interesting question.
I mean, he obviously has a stronger arm. That's the one thing you know first off.
You think Francora has a stronger arm?
Yeah, I think
Church. I thought Church had a great arm. I thought Church had a better arm. And more accurate.
I think Church had a more accurate arm. Francora has a bigger
release, maybe.
Yeah, I think Francora's got a bigger arm. I think Church had a more accurate arm by far.
I think Francora, one thing that I've said before that impresses me.
Ibanez hits it to left, and Sheffield coming on. 2 out.
Francoeur charges the ball very good. Base hit to right field. We're runner trying to score, go to third. He charges beautifully and gets rid of the ball with very little extra motion, and he's accurate with his arm.
His better side is the play he just made, though. Going to his right, Francoeur does a nice job.
It's time to go to bed.
That's beautiful. The fans here tonight got the special 1969 T-shirts, and one size fits all.
Are we going to get one of those?
I'd like one.
I would too.
Hope so.
Have to give it to my middle daughter. She's a Cardinal fan.
Pedro Feliz came off the bench last night, had an RBI hit. And Redding throwing strikes.
You know, you were talking about mortality, Keith, watching those 69 Mets up there. My thinking was, as Tom Seaver was speaking, talking about mortality, is God willing, you and I, and Gary are still here, but you and I are still there on the field for our 40-year celebration. You would be doing what Seaver did.
I don't know
speaking
about that.
For us.
I look at Nolan Ryan, and I think of the '86 playoffs, and we roughed them up in Game 2 after we lost to Mike Scott. We beat him 5-1, and we got him early. Even a guy like Nolan, like any great pitcher, you got to get to him early. And then we had him back here. What game was that? 6?
6.
And Wally Backman said in the paper, it was Game 5. Wally Backman said in the paper, oh, we'll get him. And I went, oh no.
Oh.
And that was, thank goodness for Darrell's home run, just down the right field line, that humpback line drive that just barely cleared the wall.
And you know, that was Nolan's last real chance to get back to a World Series. It turned out the only World Series he played in was as a Met.
Well, Doc went toe-to-toe with him in that game, right?
That was a must-win for us, obviously. Fred Brocklander helped us out in that game, if you recall. First base umpire.
Phillies pops one foul.
The bases loaded double play that wasn't, and we'd have lost that game 2-1. Should have.
By the way, 2026. It's on my calendar.
It is. All right.
Start writing your speech now, Keith.
I just hope I'm still around.
Feliz gets buzzed, and it's 3-2.
I'd love to still be around. I don't want to leave this earth. I want to be around at least till I'm 80.
17 years, you can make it. You'll be here.
Pray for me.
3-2 every day. And I'm sure I'm not alone. Carlos Ruiz on deck. This will be the 9th pitch of the at-bat to Feliz. And it's just outside, and he stopped the swing in time. And Feliz draws a 2-out walk. Second straight inning that Redding has walked a man with 2 out and nobody on. And now Carlos Ruiz will bat. There's another youngster looking just splendid in that 69 T-shirt.
Say hi, Mom.
Must be his birthday, too, today, right? Birthday club on the crown on his head.
They watching you.
He was just a glimmer in 1969.
Who was that Archie character in the comic strips that wore the hat like that?
That was Jughead.
Jughead.
Yes.
Jughead Jones. Carlos Ruiz looking for his first hit against the Mets this year. He's gone 0 for 21 against Met pitching. And Redding throwing strikes early in the count to everybody. Gets ahead 0-2. Tim Redding first start since the 2nd of July when he got roughed up in Pittsburgh. Have been working out of the bullpen and more effectively as a reliever than as a starter. Slider away.
And the problem for Tim tonight is that with the walk to Feliz and pitch count getting up, he's on a pitch count to maybe around 60, right, Gary?
Yeah, Jerry said 60 to 70. He said the last time that he got past 60, he kind of hit a wall. And a nice stop by Santos. That saved a wild pitch. Change the flight patterns tonight?
I think so. And you'd think tonight, honoring the 69 team, go around.
That's what happens when you have Bill off Hatteras right now.
All that rain out to our west, too. Too high, and it's 3-2. So again, Redding gets ahead of the count and winds up going full. It's been the pattern so far tonight. And So now Phillies will be in motion with the pitcher Happ on deck, who's been rather hapless as a hitter. Struck him out. First strikeout of the night for Redding. Still no score. Here's your Jeep around the majors for this afternoon. Irvin Santana won his 4th in a row for the Angels, who beat Toronto 7-3. Kevin Youkilis, 2 homers, drove in 6. Boston gets even in that series with the Yankees with a lopsided win. And the knuckleballer Charlie Hager, 7 scoreless, 3 hits for the Dodgers as they beat the Cubs 2-0. The Cubs have scored 1 run in the first 2 games of that series. We go to the bottom of the 2nd inning. Jeff Francoeur leads off for the Mets. And we are joined in the booth by Hall of Famer Ralph Kiner, part of the celebration tonight honoring the '69 Mets. And Ralph, that was something, wasn't it?
It really was. It was a great thrill for me to be a part of that team and broadcast those games that year and see a team that started out with really nothing at all. And remember, they did the whole thing before they had free agency. They developed the team in a short time to win the pennant, and it was really a great thing to go in the World Series. And Keith, you had the experience, so you know what it's like.
Yes, of course, of course. I was saying earlier how I remember watching in '69. I was a junior in high school then.
Oh, come on now.
I was.
How many years did you spend as a junior?
Francoeur takes one the other way to the wall and right. And Jeff has himself the first hit of the night for either side, a leadoff double. 20th double of the year for Francoeur.
I got a chance to meet him on the field when he was down there, and he's really a great guy, isn't he?
Delightful.
Yeah.
Always a smile on his face.
And I asked him how he pronounced his name, and of course he didn't pronounce it like the French would, like Francoeur. He said cool. And nice to meet him. And Murphy, I got a chance to talk to him. That was a real thrill. It's nice. It's really nice to see the young players.
And it was great, Ralph, I thought, to see the young players in the dugout watching the '69 team being honored.
Well, they should, because that was a great team put together by Gil Hodges. And Johnny Murphy was the GM at that time. And maybe Bing Devine was involved, too. But we got to see it in person and see it grow into a mature and very good ball club.
And I don't know, was Whitey Herzog the farm director? Or was
he was the farm director, yeah. He was the farm director. He's a big cog for the Mets. A third base coach, great coach.
And you think of all the guys who were homegrown on that team, from Seaver and Kuzman and Harrelson and Cleon Jones and on, who were such a big part of that team.
And for example, Nolan Ryan, first time I'd seen him in years, and he's just as good. He's an amazing guy, and he was drafted like 376 in the draft.
Red Murph scouted him, right?
Red Murph was the guy that scouted him and signed him, yes. And he was a good scout for the Mets. And, of course, you had Jerry Koosman, who was certainly underrated. He's one of the great pitchers of all time, and I think as a left-hander, you got to rank him everywhere at the top.
Doing one to Tatis. Ralph, you know, we've talked to a lot of folks leading up to the celebration tonight, and you know, Gil Hodges clearly had an enormous impact on the team and felt as though they could win. And Jerry Grote was quoted in spring training as saying he thought they could win. As a guy who had watched the Mets for the first 7 years of their existence never have a winning season, never finish higher than ninth, did you have an inkling that there was anything positive in the offing that year?
The only thing that would indicate that they were going to win in '69 was 1968, when they had a lot of shutouts. They had Koosman and Seaver. They were pitching great baseball. And, of course, they added a couple of key players. Clendenin, a big player for the Mets. They got some power that they needed badly. And there was Leon Jones, and he matured into quite a ball player.
Tatis aboard, and the Mets have the first two on against Tapp. Well, Buddy Harrelson pointed this out today. I didn't even realize it. The Mets in 1968 lost 37 one-run games. And I guess Gil made a point of that during spring training, saying, you know, if everybody does just a little bit more and you turn that around and win half those games, all of a sudden 73 wins becomes 91, and you can go from there.
It makes a big difference. And, of course, Gil Hodges was the kind of guy you would not say no to. You had to do what he said or else. And that's where the resolute of his background was so important to the team. They really believed Gil, and he's the one that really put the thought in their mind. And Seaver was a big part of it. When they got to 500 for the first time in their history, they celebrated. And Seaver said, no way I'm celebrating it. But 500 is not going to do it. We got to go on and do more.
What point in that season, Ralph, did you, what point was it where you said, we've got a chance to win this thing?
I think you kept wondering that when was this team going to blow up? Because of course all those early years they blew up. They didn't win. They got down to where they couldn't win, and you said, how long can this go on? And they kept winning and winning and won all kinds of things. It was almost like it was predestined. And everything went their way. There's no question about that. The 2-1-0 games when Cardwell and Koosman drove in the only runs of the game. Well, Cardwell's a good hitter, but Koosman couldn't hit his fanny with both hands. But Cardwell was a good hitter.
How about the Swoboda-Carlton game? That's got to be a game that strikes out 19 and the Mets win.
You know, amazingly, I talked with Ron Swoboda. They had me talk with him about the city, and I talked to him about this, and we didn't talk about anything else. It was that serious. I just said the right things to him that he comprehended at the time. He had the 2 home runs in that ball game when Carlton struck out 19, and he was the one that won the ball game. And I think the Mets won 42, if I recall correctly. But I love to talk to him. He's a great guy. He really kind of converts with.
Phillies turn the 4-6-3 double play on Murphy. Frank Burr moves to third, and there are 2 out.
I got to ask you one question. Kiner's Corner in '69, when you still pay, was it $100 then too?
I think it was still $100, and the guys would go on. And the one thing about it, they wanted to go on because they needed the money. and there was money that I'm sure most of the guys didn't report it to the wives or anybody else. And that was the whole thing. But the one thing about it, our ratings on TV on WR were amazing. We were running like 30s and 40s. People would tune in the Mets every single night. And finally, the writers came to me and they said, you got to give us some players to talk to, because it's a half hour before the game, when the game is over, before we can get to them.
Santos hits one toward the hole and off the glove of Feliz, and that brings home the first run of the game. Santos just trickling one through to bring home Frank Gore. It's 1-0 New York.
Well, and that's like in last night's ball game. Playing a good brand of baseball here against the Phillies.
Well, they seem to get up for the Phils. They're trying to play the spoiler. And that's a case just out of the reach of Feliz. And even if Rollins gets this, I don't think he throws out Santos.
Santos runs well enough. I think it would have been out easily. But Feliz, who is an outstanding fielder at third base, never really got to the ball and far enough to the ball to make the catch.
Now Wilson Valdez making his first start since returning from Buffalo, where he'd been red hot at an earlier stint with the Mets. Well, you were talking, Ralph, about expecting the Mets to fall apart, and there were a couple of points where that could have happened. In May, they were 18-23 before they ran off 11 straight wins, and then in the middle of August, they were 9.5 back at one point, and by the 22nd of August, 40 years ago, they were 7 back. It's still a long hill to climb with 6 weeks to go in the season.
Well, on the 16th of August, they were 9.5 games out of first place. They were in third, as a matter of fact, not even second. And they came on and made it all work. And that was when I think the ball club felt they could win. And they got and of course a great series they had with the Bobcat and all that. And Seaver's one that was part of that action when the Cubs were very cocky about the whole thing. They were prancing around and cooking their heels. Remember how they did that? And the Cubs actually, they were the ones that collapsed.
The curveball to Valdez misses 2-2. Well, the pitching from that low point in the middle of August until they clinched on September the 24th was just outrageous. You look at the pitchers' numbers during that stretch, and Seaver won 8 straight starts and
look at Guzman. He had won 7 out of 8. I mean, they just couldn't lose.
Well, Seaver's 8-0. Those are 8 complete games, 3 of those shutouts to end the season.
And look at Jim McAndrew. He was just a rookie and filling that 5th spot in the rotation. And Ryan kind of came and went and made a spot start. He had a complete game against Montreal in September of that year. Struck out 11.
One thing about Nolan Ryan was that he had the stuff from day one. And you knew sooner or later he was going to be a great pitcher. He threw the ball as hard as almost anyone that ever played the game and had a great curveball with it.
Utley fields the ground ball by Valdez. That ends the inning. Mets take a 1-0 lead. Reagan is directing our broadcast tonight. Danny was a 10-year-old in New York in 1969. He kept a scrapbook of all the newspaper headlines. That's from the day after the Mets clinched against the Cardinals. Then when they beat the Braves in the National League Championship Series, a 3-game sweep. And then from the day after that wonderful Thursday when the Mets clinched the World Series with their Game 5 win over the Orioles.
Did you see that 8 cents in the Daily News?
Why, it's more now? We go to the third inning, the Mets with a 1-0 lead. Ralph, I was wondering from a personal standpoint in 1969, you know, you were a Hall of Fame player, a great home run champion, but you played for a lot of bad teams. And then you broadcast for a team that spent 7 straight years finishing 9th or 10th. What was it like for you to be associated with a team that not only won in miraculous fashion, but won?
Well, it was a very vicarious thrill for me because I'd never been with a winner other than the fact that my last year with the Cleveland Indians, I played a team that finished second to the Yankees. But it was really a great experience, and the thrill. The one thing, I got to put this in another way. The worst thing in the world to do is to play on a losing team. And I, of course, had all those years, 7.5 years with the Pirates, where the team was a bad team. We never finished better than 4th in my career there. And the best thing in the world, obviously, the other side, the antithesis of that is the permanent winning team. And I got that vicarious thrill out of the Mets winning in '69. I also got in the World Series and broadcast the game on national TV. And did that, so it was almost as good an experience as being a player. Almost, not quite.
I mean, there's some great shots of you in the clubhouse after they won it all, getting sprayed with champagne, doing interviews. That must have been unbelievable.
Well, the best shot of all was Koosman and Seaver ganging up on me. And they poured enough champagne over me that I could take a bath in it. And I was smart enough to know that I was going to get that. And I put on my worst coat, sports coat. And I was smart about that, and it was ruined entirely. But I didn't miss it because it was the worst looking thing. Almost as bad as Lindsey Nelson's coats.
I was going to ask you if you borrowed one from Lindsey.
No, Lindsey was in the class all by himself.
Second strikeout for Redding as against Rollins.
Slider in.
Well, Ron Darling had a piece of the action when he got in '86. And, of course, Ron, you had that experience yourself.
Well, there you are. Right between Seaver and Koosman.
So that's the bad jacket right there, Ron?
Well, no, I put the jacket in the locker. That was it. That was it. Yes, it was. Yeah.
By the way, Seaver and Koosman ganged up on the whole National League that year.
They sure did.
No, they went 42 games between them.
Well, one of the sad things about baseball is that not all the players get the acclaim they should, and Koosman was one of them. Yeah. He was a great pitcher, and he had more guts than any pitcher I ever saw on the mound. And to back that up was the time he knocked down Sano, almost broke his hand. I might have broken it. I'm not sure. But after Agee was knocked down by Bill Hands, and then when Sano came up in the second inning, Koosman floored him, and that stopped all the throwing right there in that ball game.
Of course, that was that big series between the Mets and Cubs in early September, where the Mets they swept them and they ended up shooting right by the Cubs in the standing.
Well, I'm sure that Santo was the perfect guy to beat up at that time because they were not happy with Santo with his clicking of the heel.
Oh, he did that, and Dick Summer, he was one of the worst.
Dick was a certified.
He had a chance to be the worst.
I played with Dick in AAA.
Did you?
Oh, he was a piece of.
Well, he came out of Fresno with Tom Seaver at the same time, and Dick Ellsworth. They both came out of Fresno. And that was you know what to grow there. A lot of fruit, grapes. So he had a chance to be unusual.
All 4 to Victorino, third straight inning. Redding's issued a 2-out walk, and Utley will come to bat. But Selma had pitched for the Mets the previous year.
And Selma threw hard. He had good stuff. There's no doubt about that.
Wasn't that year that Selma was down the bullpen and he was leading the cheers?
Oh, yes.
The cheers in Wrigley Field?
Oh, yeah. He's one of the leaders of that group that really put it on the Mets.
In fact, I don't know if anybody was watching, but this afternoon the MLB Network showed a game from 1969 between the Cubs and the Phillies from July of that year, and they showed Selma leading the cheers with the bleacher bums out in the left field stands. It was fascinating to watch. Chase Utley takes a strike.
You know, those things really backfire on you, and I saw it last night with Hamels on the mound. I mean, when you do what he did, and he called the Mets chokers, and that was as clear as it could be, it's going to come back on you sometime. And he made the mistake of saying that, and whether he really meant it or he was having one, I don't know, but it does bounce back.
Well, the Mets have hit him hard twice this year since he made those comments. And he is not having the year that he was expecting to. Now 7-8 on the year. Victorino, the tying run at first. He can fly. Utley inside out, swung to shallow left. Sheffield will have to play it on a hop. And stopping at second is Victorino. That's the first hit of the game off Tim Redding. And it'll get Ryan Howard to the plate with 2 men on.
Well, he gets jammed here. This is a little inside out. Hey, better be lucky than good. And there goes Ralph, another no-hitter.
And don't forget, the Mets have never had a no-hit, no-run game pitched by their pitching staff over the years, and they have had many, many great pitchers here.
Including one who left, pitched 7 no-hitters, and came back to visit tonight.
That name is Nolan Ryan. 7 no-hitters. And I don't know how many one-hitters they had, but he had a few. Tom Seaver had 5 one-hitters and no no-hitter with the Mets, but he did have one with Cincinnati.
Yeah, Keith knows about that.
Oh, yes.
Seaver's no-hitter.
I was in that game, and we laugh about it, Ralph.
Howard lifts one to left.
Because Seaver had nothing that day. He had to go into a plan B and throw a no-hitter.
1-0 New York.
Well, Joe Pignatano, one of the great coaches on that '69 championship team for the Mets. So many of those great faces back here in New York tonight. And here is Joe walking out to applause in Citi Field. And luckily, as we come back to Citi Field now, welcome you back. I'm sitting next to the man, Joe Pignatano, who was the coach, one of the coaches on that great '69 team under Gil Hodges. And let's start with Gil, Joe. I mean, you know, so many great stories about how he was a handler of men and how he was a father to men. What, from a coaching perspective, though, what was he like to work with?
He was, as a boss, he was the best. I mean, he never did yell at you. You know, you had a job to do. He said, just do it. Don't worry about it. You do your job, you don't have to worry about nothing. And Gil handled the players so well. You know, his office, the way it was, if you remember Shea, where the players went out to the field, the door was always open when somebody made a mistake the day before. And as soon as he saw that person going out, and he'd whistle, close the door behind you, and they'd sit and have a powwow.
Was it what type of powwow was it? Was it a teaching powwow? Was it?
Yeah. You know, you made a mistake. Yeah. You did this, you did this, you did this wrong, and this is what we say. This is what we have to do. And he did that every day with somebody who made a mistake. And if nobody made a mistake, why he didn't have to reprimand anyone.
By the end of the year, there weren't that many mistakes anymore. You know?
Oh, and they loved him. I mean, the players just loved him. And he did. To me, he was so far ahead in the game. He had guys. He'd tell a guy, "Hey, such and such is going to hit in the 6th inning. Go down and swing it back."
So he'd be ahead of the game.
Yeah, you're going to be my pinch hitter.
Tim Redding strikes out to start the inning as Angel Pagan will bat. Well, you know, how do you think he got all the platoons that he used to work so well? I mean, that was obviously a staple of your team. There were only, AG and Cleon for the most part that played every day. So how did he get everybody to buy into that as Pagan rips one down the line here? Angel Pagan is going to try for 2 and get there. One out double for Angel Pagan. How did he get everybody to buy into that system, Joe?
Because they all believed in him. They all believed in him, and they knew he was right, and they did everything he said. And we just gelled. We just gelled. We went from a 500 ball club to a winner.
When did that happen?
That happened in the beginning of September. When we played that 5 games, we played the 9 straight games with Chicago. That's when it all came together. And I thought we left Chicago a half a game behind. And 1 month from that day, 1 month, we were 9.5 behind. 1 month later, we were 9.5 ahead.
Who did you like seeing coming back here today? I mean, you know, some of the faces have been around a little bit, around Shea and around the Mets, but some have not been here in years.
That's right. I couldn't wait to see them all. Yeah. I couldn't wait to see them all.
You keep in touch with them all?
I see. Well, I see most of them down in Met Fantasy Camp. Bobby Fowler I hadn't seen in a while. I hadn't seen. Well, one of the guys that didn't come, Jack DeLoro, he didn't come. I haven't seen him in a while. So, you know, these are the guys that I wanted to see because I haven't seen them in such a long time. And Bobby Fowler, he's a great kid.
Well, it's good to see you, that's for sure. I know you're not far away over in Brooklyn, but it's great to see you back here, Joe.
Well, thank you, Rick. It's great to be here, and this is a great park. It's really beautiful.
Appreciate it, Joe. Let's go back upstairs to you guys. Joe Pignatano, one of the coaches on that great Mets team.
And not just a coach, but the greatest vegetable gardener in New York Mets history.
He grew everything out in that bullpen, didn't he? When he joined the Mets, he sat on the bench and talked with Casey before the game for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And someone said to Casey he was going to catch today, and he said, well, that Joe Pignatano guy, he says, if he ever gets here, I'll put him in as a catcher. Well, there's so many stories about Pignatano. Casey always called his bullpen pitcher, Miller, he always called him Nelson after Lindsey Nelson, but he called him Miller. So he calls up Joe, who's down in the bullpen, said, get Miller up. And so he didn't see Miller on the bullpen bench, so he said, okay, Miller, get up. And up jumped another relief pitcher who had another name.
Luis Castillo batting with a runner at second and 1 out. And now it's 2-2. You know, I've listened to so many tributes to Gil Hodges and so many tributes to his calm and his ability to communicate and his toughness. And I wonder 40 years later, with the way the game has changed and the way players have changed, would Gil be the same kind of manager? Could he be the same kind of manager now that he was back in the late 60s? Oh, great stop by Rollins. Does he have a chance? Safe. An amazing stop by Rollins, saved a run, but Castillo beats it out for a hit.
Well, Rollins seems to do his best against the Mets. There's no doubt about that. And here's a great play. And he makes the throw, but not in time. You know, getting back to the answer to that question, I don't think Gil could change, but I don't think that the players would do anything to do what they wanted to do over what he wanted to do. Hodges was about as tough a guy as you ever want to see. And he was a Marine in the World War II. And I'll tell you, he could handle himself. Castillo beats it out for a base hit. And the Mets get the runner at third base with 1 man out.
Sheffield popped up his first time up.
You know, think about it this way, Gary, Keith, and Ralph. With so many players having military service time that they had to perform, they were spending their weekends listening and having to take orders. And, you know, respecting a guy who fought in the South Pacific was probably something that was more normal for them than kids today.
It's a very interesting point to make, Ron, because, you know, Tom Seaver was even talking today about the bond that he and Gil had as former Marines. But at the same time, in 1969, as we all know, times were starting to change a little bit. And, you know, baseball maybe changed a little slower, but even Ron Swoboda was telling a story today about being on an airplane. Someone had given him love beads, which were popular at the time with the Woodstock generation. And Don Cardwell, who was from a somewhat older generation, ripped them off his neck. And they had a little confrontation. It's low bridge by the foul ball from Sheffield.
And that is why you run in foul territory when you're on third base. If you get hit by a ball in your foul territory, you're not out. And he had to get right down on the ground to get away with that thing.
Far enough away that he's able to smile. 2-2 to Sheffield. Popped it up. Who's going to grab it? Howard calling. And there's a big second out for Jay Happ.
Those are the things that really hurt you as a winning ball club, because you got a runner on third. The two things you don't want to have happen: one is send him to a double play, and the other is to pop it up in the infield and the runner doesn't score.
Well, all the runs add up, Ralph, and you got an RBI situation. Sack. Oh, Jerry's going to join us in the booth.
Well, that will be a treat. What a sight it was tonight, watching Seaver, Ryan, and Kuzman throw out triple first pitches.
Well, you got a staff like that on one team, now you win the pennant. There's no doubt about it.
Frank Kerr drills one foul.
Here's a stat for you in today's game. Those three pitchers combined for 593 complete games. How about that number?
That number will never be exceeded. Not with the way they play the game today. And I talked to Nolan Ryan. I said, Nolan, I really wish you were pitching today, because you pitched probably more balls and strikes than anybody that ever played in the major leagues. Possible exception might be Satchel Paige.
And there are the three of them. And it was nice to see Yogi a part of the triumvirate of catchers.
Yeah, I was talking to Yogi up there after that happened. And Yogi said, I was lucky to see that. Yogi just had a cataract operation. And I said, "We're going to have the other one done." He said, "Yeah, I got to do that too." So I can see with both eyes.
1-2 to Frank Core. 1st and 3rd and 2 out.
There's Yogi.
Oh, he's an old pro.
Yeah, right there. Glasses and all.
Fortunately, Ryan did not go with the heater.
The Express.
Bounce to 3rd, foul ball.
Nolan Ryan with his wife Ruth, who was a good tennis player, really good tennis player, both here today. Unusual to see them at any enterprise, any outing. He doesn't go to the Hall of Fame, and I asked him why. He said, "Well, I'm going to go." He said, "The only reason why I don't go is so hard to get there." And it is very difficult to get there.
Nolan was inducted in 1999 to Cooperstown. Castillo runs, a little broken back flare. Rollins short hops it nicely and throws out Frank Core. Boy, Rollins with a couple of good plays in that inning to keep the Mets off the board. Look at Gil Hodges as we go to break. 1-0 New York. See the Mets at the movies this Wednesday on the larger-than-life screen at the Ziegfeld Theater in Midtown Manhattan. Join Mr. Met and fellow Met fans for SNY's live broadcast when the Mets face the Marlins at 7:10. Get your tickets at Mets.com/movies today. 4th inning, Mets with a 1-0 lead as Jason Worth leads off in the 4th against Tim Redding, who's allowed just 1 hit so far. And we are very pleased to have with us the man who pitched a complete game victory to seal the Mets' miracle finish in 1969, Jerry Koosman. Jerry, welcome.
All right. Thank you. Fun to be here.
What was the best part about this day for you? Was there a particular person that you were really happy to see?
I suppose if I had to pick one out, it'd be Nolan Ryan in a Mets jersey. But seeing all the fans and their warm welcome probably topped it all. But yes, it's always nice to reminisce and visit your old teammates and hear their perspective on certain events that happened, which always are a little bit different than yours. But yeah, it's great. All of it's great.
Jason Worth down swinging. Jerry Ross Swoboda made a comment today about being a 69 man and being a part of that team, kind of defining who all of you have been for the last 40 years. Do you feel that way?
Well, I remember somebody telling me that, if you win the World Series, it's a life-changing event. And it never really registered at the time, but after you win one, yes, your world has changed. It's never been the same. It's talked about every week of your life.
I think one of the great moments of that World Series in '69 was your second game at that World Series after Seaver had lost the first, and he was the only pitcher for a long time ever had a losing record in the World Series for the Mets. You had a no-hit, no-run game going into that ball game. In what, the sixth inning was it?
Well, certainly my goal was to win the ball game so that we'd leave there with a 1-1 record before we came back to New York. But I threw a little extra pressure on myself. Don Larson threw a perfect game in the '60 World Series, and I wanted to one-up him, so I said I want to throw a perfect game and get a hit every time up the bat.
Well, the second part was that no way you could do that.
Well, I had the perfect game going into the seventh, and of course, I screwed it up by not getting a hits earlier.
Murphy catches Ibanez's liner for the second. Paul Blair broke that up, right? In the seventh.
He did. It was my fault. I shook off a fastball and
threw a
curveball, and he pulled a ground ball between third and short.
Shame on you.
Yeah, I know it.
You had a great hook, though.
I wish I could take it back.
There's Davy Johnson flying out for the final out of Game 5.
Yeah. Right there, the noise was so deafening in the ballpark. You couldn't hear the crack of the bat. And so when he hit that ball, I didn't know if it was out of the ballpark or not. So I turned and watched Cleon, and when he stopped at the edge of the grass, I knew it wasn't out of the park, and then I was just worried about him dropping it. But he caught it. So I said,
and went to his knee.
Yeah, he did.
Davey always insisted the wind knocked it down.
That's right.
Davy Johnson made the last out of that ball game, and of course, Ron was the manager of the Mets.
Well, he hit 40-some home runs that year, so it was not like he wasn't capable of hitting.
Well, he had a great hitting club. He had Frank Robinson, Boog Powell.
That's right.
My God, you're talking about guys that can hit.
Paul Blair hit 26 home runs that season.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the whole thing
now
really
he hit a 2-run homer off of me. So.
There's one question we want to know, Jerry. When Cleon Jones was, we'll get back to it when we come back.
Yeah.
A 1-2-3 inning for Tim Redding on the night we celebrate 69.
How did the
Celebrate the champion amazing Mets of '69 with the official DVD, the New York Mets Vintage World Series films. From Tom Seaver to Ron Swoboda, this DVD showcases the legends and excitement of the 1969 Mets. Order your DVD from Mets.com/shop. Fernando Tatis leads off the home fourth, and we're with Jerry Koosman. 222 wins in his career, but that doesn't even count World Series play in 1969. And you were talking before we came back on about that ninth inning in Game 5 and what that was like for you.
Well, the inning started off, everybody's on their feet, and the noise is deafening. You couldn't hear yourself think. And the cops had already came down to the warning track all the way around, try to keep fans off the field. And I went out there really kind of pitching in fear that I did not want to lose that game, did not want to embarrass myself, embarrass the team. We did not want to go back to Baltimore. And so I was pitching in fear that I'd make a mistake. And I didn't want to make a mistake with my curveball, slider, or change, so I limited those 3 pitches and just relied on the fastball. Throw it as hard as you can.
By the way, they couldn't keep the fans off the field.
That's right. They did not.
What was that like, just saving yourself after it was over?
Gary Gentry said he made a big mistake. He was in a big rush to get off the field after that last out. He said we should have stayed there. We should have stayed there and, enjoyed it with the fans because they were having a blast. But at that time, we didn't know, and we were probably in fear of our lives. They were trying to steal our caps, our gloves.
No, you would have walked off that field naked. That would have been a problem.
Really.
The fans all got their little piece of turf from that field. I just wonder what it was like, what that field looked like after everybody had left.
We went up to the Diamond Club and had a party, and I don't know, after about 3-4 hours or so, we came out and looked, and it looked like the moon. It was pockmarks all over the place. It was bad.
Probably appropriate in the summer of 1969 with a man having walked on the moon. You got to play on a field that looked like the moon. As Murphy hits one to the gap and pulls in with a 1-out double. Well, Jerry, an absolute pleasure to have you with us tonight. Just a wonderful night here at Citi Field. Thanks so much for being a part of it.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
All right. Okay.
See you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Jerry Koosman, 17-game winner with the 1969 Mets, and pitched the clincher against the Orioles in Game 5 as you look at Murphy's double. Got a slider right there.
Hit the ball right up the alley at right center field, and good fielding in the outfield. And Murphy has to stop at second base. Murphy showing signs of maybe becoming a good hitter for the New York Mets. He certainly has done a great job at first base with his glove.
He certainly has, and he's starting to hit. He started hitting in the early part of August, Ralph. He's been very consistent hitting lefties and righties.
8-game hitting streak now for Murphy, so he's at second with 1 out. And now here's Omir Santos, who drove in the only run of this game.
Well, Santos right here has got to be the surprise of the year. He was a minor league player for many, many years, I believe 8 years. And coming up to the major leagues and having to be actually the #1 catcher in this ball club. And he has done a wonderful job.
And he's not a liability behind the plate. He does a good job back there. He throws well, Ralph. Calls a good game. Blocks the ball well. He's very athletic back there.
Did a great job blocking the plate and coming up with some great plays from Murphy for another example.
And he's proven to be very durable. He's played more this year than he ever has before, and he still have a quarter of the season to go. But he's taken a lot of hard hits, especially over the last few weeks, and it has not seemed to diminish his durability.
And the man he replaced was Castro, who was never able to play a full season. He was always injured.
Absorbed that hard hit at home plate for Mark Reynolds out in Arizona. He's been taking all sorts of foul tips off his shoulders the last couple of weeks. With the changeup balls behind 3-1.
Well, we've seen him get probably the biggest hit of the year for the Mets against Papelbon at Fenway Park. He has the ability to bunt and move runners along. He's one of the best hit and run guys on this team for Jerry Manuel. So there's a lot of things that Mr. Santos can do.
and with no obvious answer as to who the Mets catcher is going to be next year. Right now, he looks like the #1 option, and he works out the walk from Happ. And the Mets have 2 men on. Wilson Valdez coming up, and with tonight's 1969 celebration, we just had Jerry Koosman in, now the man who caught that final fly ball in Game 5 in 1969, and that would be Cleon Jones. Cleon, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, fellas, good to see all of you guys.
Cleon, why did you run across the field instead of going around underneath the stands when you caught that ball?
Well, Ralph, just like everything else, we had a plan. We had a plan. Yeah.
I want to know one thing.
Yeah.
Did Joe Hodges actually have 3 balls with shoe polish on them, and he brought it out when you were hitting the foot?
Well, no, that's Koosman's idea of what happened.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what he thinks. But
okay.
I knew for a fact that the ball hit me. Don Clendenin knew the ball hit me. Don brought everybody attention to what was taking place. And Gil actually, after watching Don, not Koosman, he decided to pick the ball up and take it out to the umpire.
Of course, we're talking about the shoe polish incident in Game 5 that immediately preceded the Mets' big rally in that game. Lou DeMuro, the home plate umpire, didn't immediately call it a hit batsman with Dave McNally hitting you in the foot, and Gil came back with the baseball, and there have been all sorts of theories about where that ball came from.
Well, really, like I said, I knew for a fact the ball hit me. But my thing was, I'm leading the team in hitting. I'm hitting 340 something. I want to hit this guy. I know. I need to hit this guy. Right? And Don Clendenin telling me, the ball hit you. Go to first base. Go to first base. That's how confident Don was at that time. We all know what happened after that. He comes up, hit a home run, and put us back in the ball game.
Cleon, you had been with the Mets probably longer than anybody else of the guys who were on the 69 team. First came out, 63, I think you had a cup of coffee, right?
Ed Kranepool, we signed the same year. I did not go out in 62. I played winter ball that same year, and that's when Eddie Kranepool and I met. But we signed in 62. Eddie was the elder statesman. I was second in line.
So it had to be even more special for you, having lived through all those down years that led up to 69.
Of course. I played when we came to the ballpark. I think Ralph was doing the broadcast. Ralph, you might have even played a couple of games during that time.
Well, listen, when you guys played in 1962, I could have made that team easy.
Well, you didn't actually play. But hey, I know you was asked a bunch of times to come out and lend a hand.
Yeah, I did, and I also pitched batting practice, and that was something Casey said he'll never wanted anyone to do.
Yeah.
He didn't want any outsiders to pitch batting practice.
Yeah, he didn't want everybody to know how bad we were. Yeah, right.
Well, the one thing about Joe Pignatano, he proved that we were bad. He hit it to a triple play in his last at-bat of the season. And Casey said, boys, I want you to know it was a team effort.
But Joe is a smart guy. You know, when you play this game, you got to be remembered for something.
Well, he did.
He had done nothing up to that time to be remembered for.
That Baltimore Oriole starting pitching, who was the one that had the best stuff, that gave you the most trouble? That was a powerful starting rotation.
But you know, on paper, they were a great team. And I played against all these guys in the minor league. McNally, Quayle,
Palmer,
all those guys. I played against them in the minor league. And I had great success against these guys. They were good pitchers. All right, let's go get him out.
Utley throws out Redding to end the inning. Cleon Jones will be back with us when we go to the 5th inning. And there's Cleon making the catch and genuflecting for all to see. And the Mets were champs in 69.
Okay.
Carlin and Adam Shine as they go head-to-head on everything from baseball to pop culture on Loudmouths, presented by Geico, weeknights at 6 p.m. right here on SNY.
Oh, yeah.
There's Cleon Jones, who led the National League in batting for most of the 1969 season, wound up finishing third behind a couple of pretty good hitters in Pete Rose and Roberto Clemente. There's no shame in that at all.
Well, they stole it from him. They stole it.
Well, you had
got 3 hits the last day of the season. We got rained out. He got 3 hits, 3 bunts to win it. All right. But he won it. The minute I told Gil we should play another ball game, give me a shot.
I'll tell you, years and years ago, before your time, Lajoie was a great infielder. Got 7 base hits in a doubleheader the last day of the season and won the batting table over Ty Cobb. So you're not the first guy.
Well, that's right. Well, look at this. To get beat by Pete Rose or Clemente, that's
not
a good
bad.
deal.
No, not bad at all.
No.
So, Cleon, getting back to the big 3, none of them gave you trouble. Palmer, McNally, Cuellar?
Well, I didn't say that. They got me out. I didn't say that. But when you face Gibson and Koufax, all the great pitchers in the National League at that time, Marichal, when the face of Palmer, Cuellar, McNally, I mean, it's a walk in the park. You know, they get you out, but you can't wait to get back up to get out again.
Well, if you walked in the park too often against Gibson and those guys, you got knocked down.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another story.
You know, Cleon, I spent most of the day talking to the 3 pitchers, Ryan, Koosman, and Seaver. They're talking about their relationship with Gil Hodges and how close they were to him. Other than your storied incident with him, how did you and Gil get along?
Well, we got along, just marvelously. Gil was a great manager, the best manager that I played for. And Gil was in tune with all of his players. And all of his players was in tune with Gil Hodges. When they came to the ball, you have to realize one thing, that we had 4 guys on that ball club that knew when they came to the ballpark every day, they was going to be in the lineup. Everybody else had to look up the lineup card to see if they were playing. Buddy Harrelson, Brody, Tommy Agee, and myself. We knew we would be in the lineup. Van Dennen, Ed Kranepool, they had to read the paper to see who was going to pitch, to see what the lineup was going to be each and every time they come to the ballpark. But this man was a great manager because everybody on that ball club contributed. Somewhere during that year, they contributed. And it didn't matter whether it was in the 9th inning or the 1st inning, from Rod Gaspar on down. You look at the pitching staff. Everybody contributed because Gil Hodges had them ready. He's one of those managers was always an inning ahead. You know, he didn't close the barn door after the horse was out and gone. But he was always one step ahead.
Well, Tim Redding having himself a gem of an outing. He's allowed just 1 hit over the first 4 2/3 against a team that he seems to own, the Phillies, and he has a 1-0 lead. Cleon, we've asked this of a lot of different guys. When did you guys know that you were going to be special in 1969?
In August. When Gil Hodges walked on the field, I think someone asked that question. Walked on the field and got me during that Houston series. We was getting our tails kicked by Houston, and that happened quite often with that Houston ball club. They hit us very well, and Gil walked out on the field doing a doubleheader, and I thought he was coming to take a pitch out because he was getting hit pretty good. He passed by the pitcher's mound, went past Buddy Harrelson. I looked around in the bullpen to see what was happening. He ended up right in my face. He says, Jonesy, what's up, Gil? He said, I don't like the way you went at that last ball. I said, Gil, look down. He looked down, his feet on the water, my feet on the water. It was that kind of outfield during that time. He said, oh, that's right, you have a bad ankle. I think you need to come out of the ball game. And that's what happened. And we laughed about it. But the media thought they had something to write about. So, you know, Gil was getting on there.
Thank you.
All right.
Great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
leading off the home fifth inning with the Mets leading 1-0. And we've been talking with Cleon Jones, the left fielder from the Mets 1969 championship team. And we cut you off mid-sentence there, talking about Gil taking you out of the game in left field in that game against Houston. You described that as a real turning point in the Mets season.
It's a real turning point in the fact that I was leading the league. I was probably up by 20 points then, leading the league and going up. And when he came out and got me in, nobody knows what really happened out there with that conversation except Gil Hodges and myself. I never told anyone. But everybody assumed that he got on me, and we as a team, we got to pick it up because I don't want Gil coming out and embarrassing me. They look at it as an embarrassment, but that's not the way it happened. And Gil was that kind of person. He would not embarrass his ball player. If he wanted to deal with you, he dealt with you one-on-one in his office. If he wanted to ask you something in front of someone, he would always ask you, do you know what happened? And if you explain what happened to him, that was it. But he wasn't that kind of manager to embarrass. But to make a long story short, when I came out of the ball game, I went to the clubhouse, and nobody knows what happened. Everybody came back the next day looking around at each other. Who's going to be next? Who's going to be next? And from Steve on down, everybody started to pay attention to what was going on, and we became a better ball club. We went on a winning streak from that point. Thank God for Leo Rocha that the Cubs were folding up in August. Everybody had sore arms. So the bullpen was just gone at that time. And we started to have fun as a team, and we realized that we could win and make a difference in this ball.
And the rest, of course, was history. 38-11 going down the stretch of the season to the marvelous postseason and a miraculous championship for that 69 team. Cleon, it's been great having you here. Thanks so much for being
good to be here with you guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Cleon, always good to see you.
Ralph, always good to see you.
Okay,
all right.
Cleon Jones from the 1969 World Championship Mets team. Cleon spent more than a decade as a Met. He was a huge part of this franchise. So, Cleon, thanks so much.
All right.
You know, when I put Cleon on my kindness corner in those early years, he never said a word.
Yeah, well, Ralph, you got to understand why. You never paid me.
By the way, Gary Sheffield just did a foul ball in a place nobody's ever hit one here at Citi Field.
Oh, God.
That's the place where you don't go to get foul balls.
You just can't make this stuff up. It's just hilarious. Well, Cleon Jones, Ralph, my dad always had us watch, left-hand hitters. But the real good right-hand hitters, when they come to Candlestick Park, you'd have us watch them. Cleon was one of the guys.
I'll tell you one thing he did. He used to have a little hitch. He would drop his hands down, but he always got the hands back up. And that's really important when you're hitting. If you get your hands dropped down, you'll get it back up. Don't get them back up, you can't hit.
Castillo runs. Sheffield flies one to shallow right. Castillo's got to hustle back as Worth makes the catch. And he gets him. Double play. Castillo running on the pitch. Worth doubles him off for the 9-3 double play to end the inning. Castillo did all he could, but the inning's over.
Even watching Castillo.
Let's say you want to find up-to-the-minute sports news, exclusive interviews, original content, special features, video highlights, and the best inside scoop from a complete network of New York team blogs. There's a place for that. SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Pat Mish just recalled today from AAA Buffalo. Will come on to pitch for the Mets in the 6th. We will check in with Kevin Burkhardt, who's standing by with another relief pitcher of note.
Indeed, it is Dr. Ron Taylor. He's been the team doctor for the Toronto Blue Jays for the last 31 years, and of course a guy who came on to finish things plenty of the time in those 1969 Mets. You know, Dr. Taylor, you know, I think about the 69 team, I think about the World Series, and it's almost like that Atlanta series, the LCS was overlooked a little bit. You know, I'd imagine as a pitcher, your goal was to try and hold down Hank Aaron, and it didn't really happen, but it didn't matter, I guess.
Well, I felt that very confident pitching against Atlanta, and I had a win and a save in the playoffs, and went back to New York, and we beat them in New York, and it's a great experience for me.
What was it like pitching out of the bullpen with a pitching staff, a starting pitching staff that threw complete game shutout after complete game? I mean, did you sometimes wonder when you were going to get in these games?
I thought I was better than they were.
How about your, you know, the team camaraderie and just, you know, when you felt this team came together? Did it happen at some point as Mish issues a leadoff walk to Victorino here for the Phils? When do you feel the team really gelled?
At the All-Star break.
Why?
Because we went into Chicago, and we won a series off them, and we went on after that, and we beat them all the time. But the big turning point was at the All-Star break.
How about now your profession as a team doctor for the Blue Jays? You know, being a pitcher, has that helped you in what you do right now and how you deal with the players and things like that?
Well, I try to share my expertise as a pitcher and as a doctor, and the bottom line is the orthopedic surgeon, who I refer to.
That's the big job, huh?
Yeah.
Big spot in this ball game, guys, is Chase Utley up here with the Phils only down by a run. Dr. Ron Taylor, the 69 Mets. Thanks, Ron. Let's go back to you guys.
All right, thanks very much, Kevin. And Ron Taylor and Tug McGraw formed quite a tandem out of that bullpen for the Mets in 1969 as Utley grounds one slowly and just foul.
We had that wonderful little quiz last night about who was the, Ralph, see if you get it, who was the only Met player on the 69 roster that had prior World Series experience. Only one.
Well, let's see. I'm thinking out loud. I would say not Tommy Agent.
Yep.
Ron Taylor?
Yep. 64 Cardinals.
That's right. He came out of the Cardinals. That's right. He was a good, he had a real good slider, and nowadays, actually, it was a short curveball, and it was like a slider, and he could get on that outside corner, and he could hit that corner consistently. Excellent pitcher, and he had a lot of intestinal fortitude. No question about that. Right here, a tough spot for the Mets, as the runner at first base can run well. And Utley, of course,
Utley drives one deep right field. Back goes Frank Curl looking up, and it's out of here. Chase Utley with a two-run homer, and he's given the Phillies the lead. Number 26 for Utley. Well, Tim Redding pitched brilliantly for 5 innings, allowed just one single. Pat Mish comes out of the bullpen, walks Victorino, and Utley takes him deep to give the Phillies a 2-1 lead.
Well, Utley certainly an outstanding hitter out of UCLA, fastball, and it's on the inside part of the plate. He gets around on the pitch, has a good short swing, and he can hit.
He's very compact with his swing, Rob. He can hit.
He reminds me a little bit of a contemporary I played against, a left-handed version of Paul Molitor. Just has that quick of hands.
Well, the last series the Phillies played here at Citi Field, Utley hit 3 home runs. That's his 6th home run against the Mets this season. Howard grounds one right into the shift. Wilson Valdez playing on the right side, throws him out for the first down.
Oh, we're going to show the IOTV pitch differential. Not much. Actually got it in more. I think if you're going to come inside to a left-hand hitter, you got to go up and in, Ralph. The lefties are notorious down and in hitters, are they not?
No question about that, and that's usually the case for the left-hand batter. Oh, inside fastball is what he's looking for most of the time. And right here, the change in pitches has not helped.
So Pat Mish faces 3 batters, gives up 2 runs. Mets will bring in the right-hander to face Jason Worth. Brought to you by Lincoln Mercury. Sean Green comes out of the bullpen for New York to face Jason Worth, with the Phillies now leading at 2-1 in the top of the 6th after the 2-run homer by Chase Utley. Worth is 0 for 2 on the night and takes a breaking ball for a strike. Well, we're very pleased to have with us the catcher for the 1969 Mets, and I mean the catcher, Jerry Grote. Jerry, it's great to have you back here at Citi Field. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely fantastic, and what a great day this has been.
What's been the highlight for you here today?
It's kind of like the 69 season. From the start to the finish, everything has been absolutely great. Last night, all the players were together and the families, and then today we've met a lot of the old fans and new fans, and it's just been awesome.
You know, people have been talking a lot today about the trade for Don Clendenin that helped you guys in the middle of June. Maybe one of the best trades the Mets ever made was acquiring you from Houston.
Well, I don't know about that, but that was something that the trade for Clendenin was something that I predicted in spring training and said that if we had one more good middle of the lineup hitter, we had a real good chance of winning because we had the pitching and the defense.
Worth goes down swinging for the second out. Tell me about catching that staff, because you had such young pitching talent on that pitching staff, and I guess that's why you felt you guys had a chance.
Oh, definitely. I knew what kind of potential they had, and I had guys in when I was with the Colt 45s, Eddie Casco, Bobby Lillis, Nellie Fox, Pete Reynolds. Those guys took me under their wing and got me to concentrate on the defense area of pitching to guys. So with the talent that we had on the mound, at least I didn't have to hit against them.
Well, you had a career-high 6 home runs in 1969.
Well, you know, that was interesting. I was not a home run hitter. I hit 4 of those after August 15th, and I think 2 or 3 of them were actually walk-off home runs. And at that time, we didn't call them walk-offs, but they won ball games for us.
How about the time, Jerry, that you thought it was 2 outs and you rolled the ball back to the mound, and the runner on second base looked for third, and you somehow or other they threw him out of third base, and you thought there were 2 outs. How about that?
I can remember that very well. We talked about it earlier today. What happened, we had a 4-man outfield. McCovey was hitting. We were in San Francisco at Candlestick Park. McCovey hit one off the wall and left straightaway left field. Rod Gaspar was playing left field. Worrell picked the ball up off the fence and made a perfect throw to home plate in the air, and got it was either Dick Dietz or Jack Hyatt, who was running, one of the catchers, and it was a bang-bang play at home for the second out. I got so excited on the throw, I said, oh, man, and I threw the ball out, and I had let it go, and I knew it was only 2 outs, and I started after it. Clendenin came across, picked it up, and threw McCovey out at third for a double play.
Did you hear from Gil on that one?
No, he just,
you know what Jerry said? We worked in that playoff spring.
Ibanez hits one over Frank Kerr's head and right, and it hops out for a ground rule double. One of the great double plays in Mets history. I mean, I remember that play very, very well. As you look at Ibanez again.
Change up right there. Ibanez stays back. He's been struggling. That ball over the middle and down.
Jerry, when you started before a series, who would do the game plan? Would it just be you, or would you get together with Gil and Rube, or how did it go?
Well, it was supposed to be a team meeting, but when Seaver talked about hitters, he usually say up and in, low and away. And that was the whole theory. It didn't make any difference who came in. And when you stop and think about it, what else do you do other than up and in, low and away?
It's as simple as it is. It's up and in and low and away, and those are the pitches. Fastball, high and in, high and tight, and a curveball low and away. That's a simple part of the game.
DeLees drives one to the gap in left center. That'll chase Ibanez home. Back-to-back 2-out doubles for the Phillies, who now lead it 3-1.
Was there any with Seaver and Kuzman? Was there any when you needed an out? What did you go to with them? I mean, I know I faced Tom, I faced Jerry, but what did you like to go to when you were in trouble? Did you call aggressively in with those guys?
Oh, our whole theory was pitching people in, and that was back in the days when I remember Nellie Fox telling me one night in Old Cold Stadium in Houston to look for the slider off of Don Drysdale. And so I went up and did, and I hit 1 of 2 home runs that year. And then I came back in the dugout, and Nellie says, be ready for a ball in the ribs next time. And I says, I'm hitting 180. Come on, give me a break. And he says, he will give you a break, and he did. So those were the days we pitched inside.
Tell me about Game 3 against the Braves. It's the 3rd inning. You're down 2-0. Gentry gives up a couple of loud fouls to Rico Carty, and Gil brings in Nolan Ryan. I think it's a 3-2 count on Carty with a couple of men in scoring position, and gets out of that inning, and you guys wind up winning that game and clinching the pennant.
That was very interesting because it was a very interesting move, and I know a lot of people wondered, like, how can you do that in the middle of like the situation was. And I heard Rico over talking to Cepeda, who was hitting behind him, and he asked him what to look for. He said, just look for the heat. And he said, look for the heat, and I mean heat. And it was not enough. He threw it by him.
You know, it's pretty interesting that you take Gary Gentry out, the next guy you bring in throws harder.
You know, that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier, and a question that came up in a press conference was that, you know, the whole World Series turned because, yeah, we were 1-1, but then they had to face Gary Gentry, and they came back and said that was not what we were expecting from Gary Gentry. He was not what we had been told about.
Jerry, thank you so much for being a part of this. It was great to have you here tonight.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to meet with you guys and shoot it up here, man. We got it.
Jerry Grody, everybody.
Happy 40th.
Thanks. Ralph, good to see you.
Joe Martinez pitching that game for the Giants. Here's your 6th inning recap here. The Phillies getting 3 off Pat Mish and Sean Green in the top of the 6th after Tim Redding had given the Mets 5 brilliant innings in his first start since July 2nd, but pulled after 79 pitches, or excuse me, 81 pitches after not having started in so long. And so the Phillies able to take advantage and grab a 3-1 lead as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Jeff Francoeur will lead things off. Jeff has doubled and scored the only Met run tonight. 1 for 2.
I have a short story here, a Williams Faulkner short story. But rookie year, Jerry Grody playing the Mets the first time. I get up to the plate. I go, "Hi, Jerry." He gave me a look of such contempt and dislike, but you didn't say hi to me.
I don't think Jerry would think I'm talking out of school when I say he was not the friendliest guy during his career. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Third baseman Wayne Garrett sitting here, guys. And Wayne, we were just chatting. What a year for New York sports. I mean, you had Namath and the Jets to start it off, and then here come the '69 Mets, and then later on the Knicks would follow that. Can you give me a feel what it was like to be in this town when all of that was going on in that type of sports year here?
Well, I know what it was like football-wise because I was home. I was watching that Super Bowl, and of course, Namath and the Jets. I mean, highly, underrated. I mean, they were the underdogs, and they came out. They came out and they played good. They showed Baltimore that they could play, and they showed them, and they proved it on the field, and then here it is. Just months later, it's here we are, and we're doing the same thing, and we end up in a World Series. I mean, just like the Jets. I mean, we're underdogs, and here you are. You end up on top, and it's.
And what was that like, Wayne? What was it like to be on top here?
It was just unbelievable because, I mean, I can remember when the Jets, when they won, I mean, the place on TV, I mean, the people just went ecstatic. I mean, they just went crazy. And so, I mean, not ever being in New York. I've never been to New York before. So, I mean, I could see it on TV, but, I mean, in life, you can't capture that feeling until you're here and really experience it. And when we won it, it was just unbelievable. It was like, even that whole year, because first time in New York.
You were what, 21, 22?
I was 21 years old. But even walking around the city, everywhere I went, people noticed me. Aren't you Wayne Garrett? Aren't you Wayne Garrett? And it's like, how can these people notice me? I've only been in town a month, and everybody knows you. And so, but. I mean, it just kept going on and on and on, and so it was.
Tatis puts one into center here. Mets have a runner on with 1 out. Go ahead, Wayne.
But anyhow, it just kept growing and growing and growing. I mean, and by the time the end of the season, I mean, when you would go out in mid-season when the kids are out of school and they're at the stadium and they're and the parents are with them, and I mean, instead of having 25,000 people in the stands, you got 50,000 people in the stands, and I mean, it's just electrifying, and I mean, you just don't know it until you go out on that field and experience it. And then after that season was over with, we won. I mean, this place went absolutely wild.
How did this team, as Murphy hits here with Tatis on first, how did this team learn how to win? I mean, you were 10 out in August. That doesn't seem like the most likely of scenarios. So how did all of a sudden things come together? You learn how to just get it done. I mean, what happened? When did that change? And it's from an organization that had never won.
Yeah. There's a couple reasons why. I have my own theory about that, and I mean, we just played one game at a time. I mean, we never really looked ahead. I mean, we just played one game at a time. We go out and play this game, and hey, we won this game. And we go out the next day, and we'd go out, and we'd win that game. And it got to be where, hey guys, we're winning 3 out of 4. We're winning 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3. I mean, it's like we're winning series, and it's like, I mean, and we just went out there, and it was like we just knew that we were going to win. I knew the first time around, seeing everybody, that we had the best pitching in baseball in the National League. That we had the best pitching staff, no doubt. And it was like we just, you know, as a player, you know, I just tried to play defense really well, because I know that if we score a couple runs for these guys, we're going to win games. And we didn't really have to score a lot of runs. You just had to play defense.
You could hear the confidence, too. Before we let you go, Wayne, let me just ask you, I know you keep in touch with a lot of the guys on the team and a lot of the guys you saw here today. Who do you miss? Who do you miss the most on the squad?
Well, there's a couple guys, and my roommate Duffy Dyer. I mean, we roomed together for 6 years, and I would be lying not to say that the number one guy that I really look for is Duffy. You know, when we get here, you know, I always like seeing my roommate, and you know, there's others too that I really got along with well too, but number one was my roommate Duffy Dyer.
Wayne, I got to tell you, it's tremendous catching up with you. Thanks so much for the time, okay? As this went back up the box, and a shovel to first. Look out. Murphy is going to be out. Wayne Garrett, guys, let's go back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Kevin. Of course, Wayne was just a rookie in 1969 and still has that nice shock of red hair 40 years later. We should all age so well. What a play by Happ here behind the back and the shovel pass to first.
Well, if he doesn't make that play, it's a double play. Rollins has it covered.
And Murphy ran into a refrigerator with a red hat.
Refrigerator's not very good footwork around that bag there. Oh, jeez.
Almost a great backhand stop there behind his back. But the Mets not getting any luck at all as that ball rolled and stopped right there close by where he could get the out. But the Mets now have a runner at second base. And a chance to get back in this ball game. They trail by 2.
Happ about to throw his 100th pitch of the night, and facing Omer Santos, has driven in the only Met run tonight with a second inning single. Well, Ralph, it's been quite a night tonight honoring the '69 team. This is it's brought back such wonderful memories for those of us who are around, and hopefully for those who were too young to actually remember 1969 to have a little flavor of just what it was like then. What are you going to remember most from '69 and from tonight?
Well, I remember the trip we took to Las Vegas, and the Mets all went there, and they had a whole Phil Foster was the MC of the show in Vegas, and they had the theme of the show was the Impossible Dream. So that was it, and that one I never forget because the Mets can't sing on tune.
We've seen that video. That's a good point, Ralph. Always great to have you. Thanks.
It was great to be here.
A big night. Ralph, who was such a big part of the '69 Mets, is one of the 3 original voices for the team. We'll be right back. Here's your AT&T high-speed pitch for tonight's starter, Jay Happ, who has finished 6 innings, threw at 92, and Tim Redding, who threw 5 terrific innings tonight, shutting out the Phillies on just 1 hit, topped out at 92. A very encouraging outing for Redding tonight. But it's the Phillies who have a 3-1 lead as we start the 7th. Top of the order, Jimmy Rollins up against the new pitcher, Elmer Descends.
Those Elmer's numbers on this year. Good low ERA and limited work for Elmer.
He's done a good job in his 14 appearances.
Yeah, he has.
0-2 to Rollins, who's gone 0 for 3 tonight. Fouled out, struck out, flied out. Redding pitched 5 innings, allowed no runs and 1 hit. He walked 3 and struck out 4. But then Pat Mish came on to start the 6th, walked Shane Victorino, gave up a 2-run homer to Chase Utley, and a 1-0 lead turned into a 2-1 deficit. Later in the inning, back-to-back doubles by Ibanez and Feliz against Sean Green made it 3-1.
It's almost like the game has been secondary tonight, huh?
No, it has been a night of celebration and reminiscing, and it's been great having all those guys here. I mean, you know, I was 11 years old in 1969. You can only imagine the impact that it has on a kid when your team does something like those 69 Mets did. And nice easy hop for Castillo to handle, and Rollins is retired. And you know, it has resonated not only through the Mets fan base, but you know, as I said at the top of the broadcast tonight, 69 Mets has become a metaphor for any the trodden franchise, any underdog that seems to have no chance. And you know, while from the inside those guys might have had a feeling all along in spring training that year that they had a chance, from the outside they were the Mets. The Mets never won. And the fact that they did seemed like a miracle to all concerned.
And the fashion that they did it too, making up all those games and winning by such a large margin and winning 100 games too.
And the black cat and Swoboda's catch and Seaver's near perfect game and all the things that happened along the way that made you think that not only were they a good team, but they were a team of destiny.
And all the way through, they get to the World Series, and now they're facing the big bad Baltimore Orioles. They're not going to have a chance against the Orioles.
The Orioles won 109 games that year.
And their best pitcher, Seaver, wrong end of the first game. They're down 1 game, and everyone, you know what? We've had a great season. No way it's going to go. And they kept churning.
You know, it's very funny. I remember this vividly after the Mets lost the first game of the World Series. I was riding in the car with my mom, who was a huge baseball fan, and you know, she saw how involved I was and how invested I was in the Mets pulling this off. And she didn't want me to be disappointed, so she was trying to let me down easy, and she said, well, you know, they've really had a very good season. You shouldn't be disappointed if, you know, they get swept here. Victorino flies out for the 2nd out. Well, as it turned out, they never lost another game. Get to Citi Field, the Mets' new home, as the series with the Phillies continues tomorrow afternoon at 1:10 p.m. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX for your printed home tickets now.
By the way, who consoles you now? After that first game, though, Tom Seaver had an interesting take on it. He was very disappointed. He was despondent. He said Don Clendenin came up to him, put his arm around him. He said, we are going to win this series. You are going to get another chance to pitch a big game. And, of course, Seaver was outstanding.
And Clendenin's rationale was, you know, they might have beaten our best, but we have just as good a pitcher going tomorrow.
Yeah.
And Kuzman proved that. He no-hit the Orioles for 6 innings in Game 6.
And that's the kind of veteran leadership that you need. And you got a young team and the people that they brought in and the players that came in, how much they talk about glowingly about Clendenin and the leadership that he brought. And those are prime examples right there.
Chase Utley's 2-run homer turned this game around, his 6th home run against the Mets this year. 6 of the 26 he's hit overall.
Well, this puts the Phillies ahead right here off Pat Mish. And I tell you what, that was an inside corner fastball, and it should have been upstairs in the letters, but a little bit down. But I tell you what,
that's a pretty good pitch hit by a talented player, right?
So quick inside, Mr. Utley. You cannot say that was a bad pitch. It was not a bad pitch.
And he hit it to a part of the ballpark with which he's become very familiar.
Yes.
That's been interesting for me tonight, listening to all these great veterans on their 40th.
Can we coin a phrase?
What's that, Ronnie?
No, what I like about when I listen to them talk is just how they always talk about that everyone was involved, the pitching was important, guys on the bench were important, everyone helped each other out. In the day and age where everyone tries to put together all-star teams, 25 guys working together is the key.
More than the sum of their parts, for sure. HD presented by IOTV. If you're in the car, listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Tomorrow we're on Pix 11 at 1 o'clock. Oliver Perez against Pedro Martinez tomorrow. Then Monday afternoon back on SNY, Bobby Parnell against Cliff Lee, who has not lost as a Philly. And the Mets go to Florida, Chicago, and Denver, Colorado for a 9-game road trip. Jay Happ, working into the 7th inning, has himself a 3-1 lead.
I am so glad that getaway day in Florida is a day game.
Are you enjoying your snack, my friend?
Someone gave me the Shake Shack. I got a chocolate shake. And
you just ate a taco.
I ate a taco. Now I got the beef here, whatever it is. The barbecue is delicious.
I think that's great, and I'm glad that you enjoyed your snack. My question is, did you have to talk before you swallowed?
I told Ryan to pick me up, and he didn't do it. He let me down.
Wilson Valdez is grounded out to the right side twice, and he pushes a bunt down to Howard, and Howard comes over to put the tag on him for the first out. Howard nimble.
Yes.
Aflac! Here's your Aflac trivia question for tonight. Who are the 2 Oriole batters who were denied hits by Tommy Agee's famous catches in Game 3 of the 1969 World Series?
I know one. I think I know 2.
Frank?
Well, just remember that the first one was with Gary Gentry on the mound. The second one came in the 7th inning with the bases loaded, with 2 out. The first batter that Nolan Ryan faced in relief. Anderson Hernandez pinch hitting, as you saw Nelson Figueroa and Pedro Feliciano up in the bullpen. Anderson Hernandez had been starting every day at shortstop, but 0 for his last 13, so getting the night off tonight in favor of Wilson Valdez. Mets have only a 4-man bench. They added Pat Mish and designated Andy Green for assignment before today's game. A little dribbler. And Happ with the bare hand throws on Hernandez, 2 down. If they see something, they'll say something. Join Brian Custer and Brandon Tierney as they take on the hottest sports stories of the day in the Wheelhouse, presented by Pepsi, weekdays at 5:30 only on SNY. Jay Happ only enhancing his candidacy for National League Rookie of the Year honors tonight.
He showed me something tonight because he does not have his best stuff, and he's been able to kind of stay in the game, make a big pitch when he had to.
You know what, Ronnie? He doesn't throw 95, 96. He throws 90, 91. But he pounds that fastball in the strike zone inside. There's one right there.
You know what's going to help him? Being able to watch Hamels when he gets at his best and Cliff Lee pitch every day. That is going to help this young left-hander.
26 years old, out of Northwestern University. It makes him a smart kid.
Yeah.
Who played at Northwestern? Joe Girardi played at Northwestern, right?
Nuclear physicist.
You know, leaving Jamie Moyer out now that he's out in the bullpen. But Jamie, of course, so free with his expert advice.
2-1 to Pagan, who doubled down the left field line in the third. 1 for 3. Pagan now with the 7-game hitting streak going. Some of the particulars on Jay Happ, who made his big league debut against the Mets in 2007. Mets beat him up pretty good that day, but he has lost only 3 games in the major leagues.
I remember when they were trying to find a pitcher, they were using J.D. Durbin, Jay Happ, and they really settled on Kyle Kendrick, who did a nice job for them down the stretch.
Ripped into left field, and Pagan has his 2nd hit of the night. And that'll get the tying run to the plate for New York in the 7th.
Louis Castillo from his power side.
Louis with his 5th straight 2-hit game tonight as you look at Pagan's base hit.
No too much plate there. Nice hitting by Angel. That'll put a smile on your face.
Chad Durbin is up in the Philadelphia bullpen with Happ up to 111 pitches now.
Well, he's got to keep the ball down on Louis here and keep it away.
2 more hits tonight for Castillo. An infield single in the 3rd. Single to center in the 5th. Now hitting .317. Highest he's been all year. Off the end of the bat foul.
It's very interesting when you watch Louis. If I were a pitcher watching him hit from the left side, you're almost always automatically given a strike. He'll take the first strike. And from the right side, he loves to jump on that first pitch.
Recently hit his first home run of the year as a right-hand batter up into the 2nd deck in left field. There goes Pagan. Ruiz's throw. Oh, safe.
He was going to call him out if Utley hung on to that ball.
Stolen base number 10 for Angel Pagan.
Good throw by Ruiz. Strong throw. Good pitch to throw. Oh, he would have been out too.
But Utley never had the ball.
He tried to make the tag too quick. It's going to be a bang play.
So a runner in scoring position with 2 out. Castillo hitting .329 with runners in scoring position this year. That's in the top 10 in the league. And he takes a fastball for a strike, 1-2. Gary Sheffield has had a rough night at the plate, waiting on deck. That may be the hardest pitch Hap's thrown all night.
Upstairs, trying to get him to go chase, and he did, but got a piece of it.
You often see that, don't you? Pitchers who think, okay, last batter, last strike, I'm going to let it all hang out. But now he's got to throw one more.
The key for him is just keep the ball down. Louis from the right side just wants that ball up in the strike zone.
Pitch number 116 coming up for Hap. And it's inside, 2-2. Mets about hit the Phillies 8-4, but they trail 3-1. Broken bat. In comes Utley to field it. And the side retired. 7 innings in the books for J. Happ, and a 3-1 Phillies lead. Let's answer our Aflac trivia question. The 2 Oriole hitters who hit the balls that Tommy Agee made the great catches on. You had Ellie Hendricks and Paul Blair. Hendricks the catcher, Blair the great center fielder for the Orioles.
And of course the ball that Swoboda caught was hit by Brooks Robinson. Here's one from Elrod.
Elrod Hendricks hitting it to left center, and Tommy Agee.
Well, he got the break in, and then he adjusted on that one.
Snow cone.
This was the play.
Gary, I don't know if you remember, but Shea was such a different stadium then. The swirling winds played a much bigger role then.
What Tommy always said about that second catch was I had it all the way. He said you could tell when I pounded my glove that meant I had it.
Wow. That's what happens when you're a 1 in center field in Strato.
Mets won that game 5-0, and Agee saved 5 runs with those 2 catches. Ryan Howard leading off in the 8th inning. Pedro Feliciano, the 5th Met pitcher of the day.
Well, Pedro, every day Pedro just about now, 68th game. Seems almost every game against the Phillies, he has one spot where he's got to get Howard out. 2-0 now so far.
Howard is 0 for 3 tonight. Just 4 for 28 against Feliciano.
Talking about guys that earlier talked about Santos, the nice year he's had. Feliciano's had a great year.
He has turned into one of the most reliable left-handed specialists in baseball.
That was interesting. You see that key? He quick pitched him.
The old Chad Bradford move.
That's right.
Always got to be ready. You cannot let a pitcher do that to you if you're a hitter.
Oh,
Jim Cott, memories of Jim Cott when he went over to the Phillies, how Jim used to have the no windup. And he'd be set looking in for a sign. I would have to use my left hand, step in the box as a umpire for time. I would dig in, get my position, and then put my hand in the bat, and he'd use his windup. You had to be ready to hit.
Larry McWilliams used to do that also, didn't he?
Who?
Larry McWilliams?
Yeah, he pitched fast.
Yeah.
But no one was faster
than Kitty.
And he pitched games at 1 hour and 35 minutes.
Yes, he did. He said Richie Allen loved it when he pitched for the White Sox. Because he said, I'll be out of here in 1.5 hours with you on the mound.
3-2 now to Howard.
Dinner at Gibson's at 9:30.
It's good for Dick because he can get the full day at the racetrack, the game, and then whatever else.
Right.
One of the great sluggers I've ever seen. He may have hit the longest home run at Shea Stadium ever. Breaking ball misses, and Howard's on with a leadoff walk. Tonight after the post game, it's 30 minutes of what matters the most to you. The latest news on all things New York sports on Geico Sports Night tonight after the post game and at 1 a.m. right here on SNY. Ryan Stokes up in the Mets bullpen. But it looks like Feliciano's going to stay in to face Jason Worth because you got the left-hand hitting Ibanez behind him. Worth is 0 for 3 tonight. Has lined out to right and struck out twice.
Well, Worth came in here raging hot. The last series at home, but prior to this series against Arizona, hit 4 home runs in 3 games. But the Mets have blanked him so far.
That's a fastball strike.
And Worth had 4 strikeouts.
Ryan Madsen up in the Phillies bullpen. Jay Happ done for the night after a career high 118 pitches tonight. And another fastball for a strike, and it's 1-2.
When a guy takes 2 fastballs like that, Keith, do you feel like he's sitting on a breaking ball?
Or either that or the changeup.
Yeah.
He's obviously not sitting on the fastball. Now it comes a snow, another fastball in. Oh, he wants the changeup now.
Two and 2 to Worth. Big doings in Denver tonight where the Rockies trailed the Giants 6-1. They just tied it up 6-6 on an Ian Stewart 3-run homer in the 6th. Rockies leading the Giants by 1 game in the wild card. 2-2 to Worth. Pulled foul.
Well, that's one ballpark right there, even though they've kind of calmed it down with the humidor.
Yes.
There's no safe lead in that ballpark. That's like Wrigley with the wind blowing out, RJ.
Yep.
Meanwhile, in Atlanta, the Braves up 4-3 on the Marlins going to the 9th. Philadelphia leading by 5.5 over the Phillies, 6.5 over the Braves.
And that's a game the Braves got to have.
Marlins won last night. And a big pitching performance for the Marlins last night by Anibal Sanchez, coming back from the 60-day disabled list to throw 6 terrific innings.
See, when Florida and Atlanta, who are both chasing Philly, when they're playing each other like right now, the Phillies to the Phillies' advantage, because they split. All the Phillies got to do is take care of themselves.
3-2 to Worth. Ripped down the left field line, but foul. Howard was not running on the first 3-2 pitch, not running here, and Worth hits one the other way, chasing Frank Court back, and it's over his head and off the base of the fence. Howard digging for third. He'll pull in there. A double for Jason Worth, and the Phillies have second and third and nobody out. First hit of the series for Worth.
That's probably a home run in Philadelphia. Outer half, he's going that way all the way with 2 strikes. Short hops the Mozone, and Howard got a very late jump here, a late read, I should say. He was around a day late and a nickel short on it.
Well, Pedro now being visited by Dan Warren has gotten ahead of both hitters, but has not been able to put them away.
Now, the big batter is Howard. I mean, that's the guy he's got to get out. He's, the left-handed specialist, brought in to face the left-hand batter, gets ahead of Howard and loses him.
Well, watch Ward's lower body here. Little stride. Well, that is just, look at that, like a golfer, straight up and down, driving off that back foot. He almost hits off that back foot.
Worth is a tremendous athletic talent. When he first came up with the Dodgers, he looked like he was going to be a star, but then he hurt his wrist, and it cost him a couple of years.
It did. I think that he's a work in progress. He's just learning how to play the game, improving every year.
Infield comes in for Ibanez, who doubled and scored his last time up, and he pops it up. Playable for Tatis. And there's a big first out for Feliciano. One away, Phillies coming up. Let's check in with the studio. Chris Carlin standing by with a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. All right, Chris, and now the Mets will walk Pedro Feliz to fill the bases, and Carlos Ruiz will come up, and presumably the Mets will bring in Brian Stokes to face him with the bases loaded. Keep in mind, there's some good left-hand hitting on the bench for the Phillies. You've got Paul Bacco, the backup catcher, who could hit for Ruiz, but you also have Greg Dobbs and Matt Stairs.
Well, Dobbs kind of tweaked his groin the other day. Was it groin? Calf.
Yeah.
So it's probably, if they do make the move, it's going to be Stairs.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to hit Dobbs if he has a strained calf, because you're in a double play situation.
And, yes, and
so let's see what Jerry does. He's going to make the move and bring in Stokes, and we'll see how Charlie Manuel decides to respond. You've got Ruiz, who hasn't had a hit against the Mets all year, 0 for 23, so it's a pretty good bet. We'll see a pinch hitter. Rough go for Feliciano. The leadoff walk to Howard, the double to Worth, so he'll leave with the bases loaded and entrust it to Brian Stokes. We'll be right back. Brian Stokes comes out of the bullpen, and surprisingly, Charlie Manuel leaves Carlos Ruiz in to face him. Stokes pitched very well last night for an inning and a third, and Ruiz first pitch swinging, lifts one to center field. Should be deep enough to get the run in as Howard tags at third. He comes on in. The throw goes to third base. One pitch. Ruiz delivers with a sacrifice fly, and it's 4-1 Philadelphia.
Well, the manager, Charlie Manuel, showed confidence in his young catcher, and he delivered.
He had sent Ben Francisco out on deck, and it looked like Francisco was going to bat for Ruiz, who had gone back to the dugout. But then Ruiz came right back out again. So Charlie Manuel obviously wanted to leave Ruiz in, felt he could get the run in, and he did exactly that.
Oh, nice job by Carlos Ruiz. And you're right, Keith. Sometimes when you're a manager, that's a nice thing to do, right?
Yeah,
for a young player?
Absolutely. It's confidence. And, you know, to Ruiz's credit, the pitcher, don't let him get ahead 0-1 with a fastball.
Now Matt Stairs bats for Jay Happ, and he takes up and away for ball one. Stairs hit last night, saw one pitch and hit a bullet down to Murphy against Francisco Rodriguez in the ninth.
And you got a pitcher in a bases loaded situation. You know, you don't want to take a first pitch fastball, let him get ahead 0-1.
Well, what made that decision even more intriguing is that Ruiz faced Stokes last night and grounded into a double play.
Turn the page.
Different result tonight, and the Phillies now have a 3-run lead. 2-0 to Stairs, and a big rip. I guess every swing he takes is a big one.
Yeah, there's no feeling for the baseball.
Oh, yes. That's a lift swing.
Matt Stairs arrived in the major league swinging Canadian timber. He's been doing it ever since. Santos can't squeeze that one, and that advances the runners to second and third. A rare miscue for Mr. Santos.
Yeah, that might be a pass ball there, right? Although I think he was sitting on one part of the plate and the ball was on the other side. Let's see, sitting outside and the ball's across the plate.
I'll say wild pitch.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith.
But we've been wrong all year up here in the booth as far as official scoring.
I think Billy Shannon listens to us and goes the opposite way.
So now 2 in scoring position for Stairs, a 3-1 count. And there's ball 4. And Bill Shannon just said pass ball.
Did you ever notice Bill has the most wonderfully manicured fingernails? They're beautifully manicured.
How do you notice?
I just happened to notice one day. It was because he was writing on a scorecard. They're beautifully manicured, filed, just perfection.
Let me see your nails.
No.
I've never looked.
No,
mine are
I don't think I've ever looked at anybody's nails.
Yeah, mine are bad.
Bases loaded, 2 down. Jimmy Rollins is 0 for 4 tonight, and he takes a strike from Stokes at 94. It's one of the things you like about Stokes. You can bring him back the next night, even after he's gone more than one inning the night before.
He's a rubber arm, and he likes to pitch.
1-1 to Rollins.
Missing a little though with his fastball tonight. Usually he's around the 96, 97 miles an hour. It's a little down. So sometimes when you don't feel as good, you feel your fastball's not as good, you overthrow just a little bit. That's why he's missing up and away.
Well, this is a game breaker right here. This is a big at bat for Rollins and for Stokes.
What a changeup. Great changeup there. Watch this pitch, Keith.
Oh, nice sink. Oh, might have been low. Might have been hot.
Worth is at third, Feliz at second, and Stairs at first with 2 out. And Rollins fouls it away. It's over in Atlanta. The Braves have beaten the Marlins 4-3, so those teams now back even in the standings.
Tommy Hanson with another win.
Hanson now 9-2. Half if he wins tonight will be 10-2. Those to me are the front runners for Rookie of the Year. I throw in Randy Wells with the Cubs, who's had a nice season. But really, there are no position players even in the running. 1-2, and it's inside to Rollins, 2-2. Maybe Garrett Jones if he'd started the season a little earlier with Pittsburgh. It's 2-2 to Jimmy Rollins. Popped it up. And Valdez makes the call to end the inning. The Phillies had 1 run and lead it 4-1. We go to the last of the 8th inning. Mets now trailing the Phillies 4-1. They'll have the heart of the batting order coming up against Ryan Madson in the 8th inning.
Oh, tough hill to climb with Madson. He's 1-0 with a 1.80 ERA over his last 21 appearances. Had a little stretch there when he took over as closer for Lidge. They kind of struggled, but back on top of his game. I like that number there, Keith. 19 walks and 59 innings pitched.
Well, he throws strikes, and it's another guy that's come a long way. When he first came up, he struggled in and out, and now he's just blossomed into one of the best relievers in the league.
It'll be Sheffield, Francoeur, and Tatis, 3 right-hand batters against Madson in the bottom of the 8th. And Sheffield takes up and in, head high.
I think that one got away a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to make any Met fan cringe, having already watched David Wright get hit in the helmet on this homestand.
He just woke up Sheffield, I'll tell you that. All great hitters I've found, Keith. I don't know if you feel the same way. You brush them back like that, they turn it up a little more. Turn it up a notch.
Well, that's why they're the good hitters.
Well, we saw Sandoval do that against Santana. Slowly to third. Feliz with the running throw on target to get Sheffield one away.
You know, we had Jerry Grody in here and talking about pitching inside and Bob Gibson, etc. You know, when I came up, and I'm sure the guys in the '69 team had it a lot worse. They used to find out who they could knock down and who they couldn't. Yeah. You came up, they brushed you, they knocked you down to see if you get back up and stay in the box.
By the way, Pedro Feliz, he's a fine third baseman.
Yes, he is.
He has such an accurate arm, doesn't he?
There's Francoeur, who doubled to right and scored the only Met run in the 2nd inning. I mean, there's a lot of third base talent in this division with Wright and Zimmerman and Feliz. And obviously Chipper Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, Feliz may not be the offensive player that some of those guys are, but defensively.
And what makes him so important, especially when Moyer was in the rotation, is that so many left-handed pitcher starters in their rotation, a lot of ground balls to third base.
Popped up behind the plate. Let's see if Ruiz has room. And he can't make the play. He was right near the screen. He might have misjudged it a little bit. And wound up lunging for it and losing it. No error on the play.
I wonder if it's the newness of this park, because we've seen a lot of catchers have difficulty. That's a tough chance right there.
That was coming right down along the edge of the net.
Oh, off the wrist.
Ball usually come back to you a little bit, won't it?
Yeah, usually comes back a little more, but that one stayed true.
Off the heel of the glove. As a hitter, you love it.
Francoeur can't take advantage as Madsen beats him with a changeup, and that's the second out. By the way, the Rockies have now scored 7 runs in that 6th inning. Still batting, now leading the Giants 10-6.
Shit.
Todd Helton is homer.
Who started that game for the Giants?
That was Joe Martinez.
Yeah.
Here's Tatis, who's walked and singled tonight, 1 for 2. Fernando has looked like a different player this last week now that he's been able to play third base every day.
He's swinging the bat a lot better.
I also think that when you play your natural position, that's a given now. You don't worry about the defense. You concentrate on the offense. He always, you know, he's going to have some tentativeness when he's in the left field or first base or right field.
Well, he can count the days. David Wright can be activated September 1st, and all indications are he will be ready to play then.
Well, David's got to get back on that horse. He was ready to play after a couple days. He's chomping at the bit. He wants to get back out there. You don't want to stay away too long after catching one in the helmet.
Oh-2 from Madsen, struck him out, inning over. And Madsen's got that great changeup. Back-to-back strikeouts. He gets the Mets on 1-2-3, 4-1 Phillies. Well, with the Mets honoring their 1969 World Championship team tonight, it gave Ron Darling a chance to sit down with the 3 ace pitchers from that staff. Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman, and Nolan Ryan. Listen in.
Nolan had this great physical presence too. The ball released and then the ships come from like out of a cave, like this, all this energy and stuff. He said we were all still learning for crying out loud. I mean, we threw hard, and the thing about us is I threw hard because we threw our Jets hard, but you got to remember that there was. I mean, we all threw hard, but there was one other guy that threw harder than anybody else. It was him, and he'd be on the mountain. You go, and he said something would happen, and he had a short temper too. He had and he's going to throw this one 180, 175, 180 miles an hour. You know.
Just a piece of what you'll see on the SNY Spotlight September 14th. SNY Spotlight, Amaze and Aces of 69 as Victorino grounds out, and that had to be a lot of fun to do, Ron.
Well, you were talking about when you were 11 years old, you know, you just loved your Mets in the 69 season, what it feels like to have these guys come up with a booth. Imagine what it feels like for me, a guy that aspired to be a great pitcher and wasn't, but sitting in a room with 3 of the best of all time and listening to them talk. It was just fascinating to hear them not only bragging about each other, but getting on each other and how each of them pushed each other to be better.
Nelson Figueroa pitching here in the top of the ninth and throws a strike to Chase Utley.
Gary, I got to ask you, being the Met fan that you are, did the Mets really need a shortstop, third baseman that badly that year?
Well, the Mets had a perpetual search for a third baseman, and they had made the deal the previous year. They traded Amos Otis to get Joe Foy, and that turned out to be a bomb of a deal because Foy was done. So they decided they had to go in a different direction after the 1971 season, and they made the trade for Jim Fregosi, who would have been an all-star shortstop in Anaheim, and they figured he could play third base with Buddy Harrelson as shortstop. They needed the right-handed bat. They were also in search of offense, and unfortunately Fregosi was done. And you know, the Mets had a surplus of pitchers. Ryan to that point had never shown that he was going to have the control to be a big-time winner, as Utley goes down looking for the second out. And the judgment was made that he was the guy who was expendable, and all he did after he left was, you know, throw 7 no-hitters and strike out more hitters than anybody in the history of the game.
Well, he struck out, what, 400 something with the Mets, so he struck out another over 5,000.
57-11,
yeah,
was that the final total?
57-11, 7 no-hitters.
57-14, excuse me.
We were kids growing up, and you look at that Street and Smith magazine at the start of the season. You looked in the back at all the all-time records, and you saw Walter Perry Johnson in the 3,000, and you said, no one's ever going to catch him.
That's right. 35-08, that was the number forever. But the thing about Ryan is, you know, you look at his numbers over the arc of his career, and they were phenomenal in so many respects, not the least of which is he once walked 202 batters in a season while pitching for the Angels. And for a long time, he was regarded in baseball as something of a circus act. In other words, he was a 500 pitcher who struck out a lot of guys. And it wasn't until the second half of his career that he was recognized as being the great Hall of Fame pitcher he turned out to be. Howard rips one into right field for a 2-out hit.
Yeah, I mean, you would have accusations that he was more interested in the strikeout than he was being able to pound out wins, but that really wasn't always the case because he played on some teams that weren't that great.
You know, we've talked about his fastball. Nolan Ryan had a great curve.
He did.
And you know what? Later in his career with Houston, and he started throwing that changeup, and he had his control. He was a better pitcher then because he had the off-speed pitch, at least for me as a left-hand hitter. And I remember he threw it to me a game in spring training. I forget where the heck Houston was spring training back then. Kissimmee, that's right. And I looked at it, I took it, and he smiled at me.
He goes, I've got a new weapon for you, Keith.
No. Well, can you imagine if he'd had that?
Well, he went 19-16 his first year with the Angels and struck out 329 batters in 1972. So that was the first year that he was really entrusted to be a regular starter. The previous year with the Mets, 1971, he made 26 starts. He went 10-14, 3.97 ERA. He wasn't a star. Yeah. He was a pitcher with a great arm. But he went to Anaheim and he became a star. One and two to Jason Worth with 2 out. And he flares one down the right field side. It's a fair ball. Hits off the jutting stands. Howard to third. Worth pulls him to second with his second consecutive double. Not hit hard, but in the right spot. And the Phillies have second and third and 2 out.
This was almost like a cue ball, cue stick here. Slider. Boy, he was full, but just kept his hands. Let his hands fly out. And I tell you what, that's a good pitch by Figueroa. You just got to tip your hat right there to Worth.
Now the Mets will intentionally walk Ibanez to get to the right-hand hitter Feliz. Listen to this 1974 season that Nolan Ryan had. He went 22-16 for the Angels with a 2.89 ERA. That year, he worked 332 innings, walked 202 batters, and struck out 367. Can you imagine how many pitches he threw that year?
Man.
I mean, he was routinely throwing 180 pitches a game.
Yeah. What was his best season with the Astros?
With the Astros, well, ERA-wise, he had the shortened season in '81. He had a 1.69 ERA and went 11-5, and he also led the league in ERA in '87. But he was 8-16 that year, with a 2.76 that led the National League.
He always pitched in bad luck for Houston. Had a little better luck with Texas late.
Most wins he ever had for the Astros was 16. Here's Feliz with the bases loaded and a check swing foul ball.
Well, that's when they had J.R. Richards and then Joe Niekro, who was the knuckleballer, and Don Sutton was in the mix there. Jerry Royce. That was a tough rotation to go up against in Houston.
How about when he was with the Angels? You'd have to go in and face him, Frank Tanana.
Yeah, and Tanana at that time threw hard. Well, tomorrow we'll be on Pix 11. We'll be back with you on SNY Monday afternoon for the final game of this 4-game series on the homestand. Coverage 12:30 on Monday afternoon. And the Mets will get their first look at Cliff Lee in a Phillies uniform. 0-2. Popped it up into shallow right. And Francoeur is there. And so Figueroa able to work out of 2-out trouble in the top of the ninth. Now the Mets with their final chance in the bottom of the ninth, down 4-1. SNY is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Toyota. By Bob's Discount Furniture. By Geico. And by the Rums of Puerto Rico, inviting you to enjoy the finest rums of the world. It has not been an easy year for Brad Lidge after his perfect season in 2008. He'll go for his 24th save tonight.
It's just the opposite of his season last year. He began the year 13 for 19 in save opportunities. Went on the DL with a bad knee. His comeback has been a little better. 10 for 12 since coming back off the DL. But look at that ERA. And I think even more importantly, look at the walks per innings pitched. That has been a problem. Also has given up 10 home runs, which can be a problem when you're a closer.
Mets have not been able to touch him yet this year. Daniel Murphy leads off the last of the ninth. That takes ball one. Murphy 1 for 3, double to right center in the fourth to give him an 8-game hitting streak. Jay Happ allowed 1 run and 8 hits over 7 innings. He's in line for his 10th win of his rookie season. Fastball strike to Murphy, 1-1.
94-mile-an-hour fastball. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's been his problem, Keith, is that he has not been able to spot that fastball, getting behind in the hitters.
Do you think the knee was an issue? Do you think overwork last year was an issue? Do you think it's just he's having a bad year?
I don't think it's overwork, and I don't think it's the knee. Well, I shouldn't say I don't think it's the knee. The knee certainly would be a problem because he does use those legs to throw that ball 94, 95 miles an hour. But to me, he's proven over his career, when he's on the top shelf, when he's feeling good and throwing good, he can go on amazing streaks. But if he's touched up a little bit, seems to lose his confidence pretty quickly and then goes the other way.
Thought I read something.
Murphy down swinging at the slider, and Lidge has the first out of the last of the night.
I read an article about a month ago. There was a quote from Lidge, and he just said he was making mistakes with his slider, and he wasn't able to throw for a strike, and when he did, it was a fat pitch. So obviously that at bat right there, he went after Murphy with 4 straight fastballs and then threw the put-away slider.
Here's Homir Santos, has driven in the only Met run tonight. Mets scored in the second, led 1-0 until the 6th. Tim Redding gave the Mets 5 tremendous innings, allowed only 1 hit, but had to leave because his pitch count was high in his first start in 7 weeks. And the bullpen gave it up. 3 in the 6th and 1 in the 8th for the Phillies, and now Lidge trying to nail it down for Happ.
Uh-oh, some whooping going on. I thought that pitch was low. Rabbit ears.
Tim Timmons, the home plate umpire.
Interesting that they're allowing Lidge to blow on his hand, and it's 90 degrees out. It's usually a balk or a ball.
Popped up to shallow right, and Worth jogging in. And that's 2 out. Right after Keith and Ron and I are done here, join Chris Carlin, Bobby Ojeda, and Darryl Strawberry for all of tonight's highlights, exclusive interviews. We'll hear from Tim Redding about his fine outing, Jerry Manuel's post-game reactions, all on Lincoln Mercury post-game live right after tonight's game, and after all 162 Mets games, only on SNY. Now Corey Sullivan will bat for Wilson Valdez with the Mets down to their final out.
I always see when Sullivan comes up, I see his name, I think of that Flintstones, Ed Sullirock.
A really big shoe. Sullivan can't lay off the slider, and it's 0-2.
Well, when it's right, and this is why Lidge had the perfect season last year, that slider's unhittable.
He looks pretty good tonight, doesn't he?
Yep.
41 for 41 in the regular season, 7 for 7 in the postseason last year. Amazing. 0-2 to Sullivan. Struck him out. Ruiz finishes it off, and the ball game is over. A 1-2-3 ninth for Brad Lidge to save it for Jay Happ, who wins his 10th of the year. The Mets waste a fine 5 innings of starting pitching from Tim Redding as the Phillies even up the series at a game apiece.
Well, the most difficult part for the Mets tonight was that Redding coming out of the bullpen was on a pitch count, and that ended up costing him as he went through the 5 innings with only 1 hit. Not enough Mets offense tonight.